Life is a fight. We're all fighting.
There's a reason he doesn't want to fight me. He's scared. We trained together for 10 years.
Colby will get his jaw broke. I'll show you when it happens.
What has journeyman Jorge Masvidal done?
Oh my goodness! Colby Covington is a scary man.
Street Jesus, if you get baptized by me, you know where you go, right? Shadow Realm, baby.
I will go through hell and back.
It starts violent, but it ends more violent.
A beautiful display of violence. I don't think the world's ready for this.
A beautiful display of violence. That's what it's being billed as. Welcome to it. This is Fight Week on BT Sport, your official weigh-in show for UFC 272. I'm Adam Catterall. Pleasure as always to be in your company. And normally at this point, I welcome two familiar faces. However, those familiar faces aren't here at this particular point. One of them has ditched me for his American mates. He's decided to go and work on the American blog. Go on. He's having a wrestle with his Wi-Fi at the moment, and hopefully he'll be able to get that sorted.
Oh, look at that for timing.
As if by magic. Look at that. Bing, bang, boom. Get yourself sorted. Nick Peet is in the house, but the man in the middle, as you've just seen there, this is a wonderful opportunity with Michael Bisping ditching us for his American pals. We thought to ourselves, right, we need to get some brains on this show because we just rabbit on for nonsense for the next 2 hours or so. We need someone who knows exactly what they're talking about, someone who might actually be performing in a couple of weeks' time as well, which we're all excited about with UFC London, and a geezer that we are high on that might be just climbing up their rankings in the not too distant future and maybe getting us all excited about some more UFC gold coming to UK soil. It is Tank himself, the one, the only, Mr. Jack Shaw. Welcome to the show, mate. How are you?
Thanks for having me, lads. A bit of Welsh spice in the mix to change it up a little bit.
That's it. That's it, mate. That's it. We need a little bit of... We need better looking people on the show. That's why we've got you on. And two, we need people who know what we're talking about. So, welcome to it. Welcome to it. We've got an action-packed show to get stuck into. For people that are just joining us, in the next 5 minutes, the guys and girls connected to UFC 272 will be stripping down to the kecks and themselves on the scales. As you know, the prelims do kick off in the early hours of the morning at 1 a.m. with that main card getting going at 3 a.m. And I tell you something, as cards come, this is ridiculous. It is stacked from top to bottom. You're only just looking at the main card there. Wait till we get through some of these prelim shows as well. Obviously, the main event is a non-title fight. 5 rounds between Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal. We'll pick the bones out of that in a minute. We've got a rearranged catchweight fight for the co-main event between Rafael dos Anjos taking on Renato Moicano. We'll get to that in a minute as well. Edson Barbossa and Bryce Mitchell. Sensational stylistic matchup in the featherweight division. Kevin Holland steps back down to welterweight. First time in the UFC, taking on Alex Oliveira. And then the big boys kick off that main card from 3 a.m. on BT Sport with Sergei Spivak taking on Greg Hardy. And as I said, the prelims are absolutely stacked as well. Let's get into the main event first and foremost. Jack, have you ever had to fight someone that once upon a time slept at your house? That's the first question.
No, I've had a couple of in-house dust-ups with my old man, but never a friend, no. So it's definitely it's an unfamiliar one for me, put it that way.
Nick, we love bad blood in all types of fight sports, but this one really does seem, first and foremost, genuine, and two, boiled over a touch throughout the course of this week with the various press engagements that both these men have had.
Yeah, I think, bad blood is a word we often use in fight sport, isn't it? It's been thrown at so many fights over the years, and more often than not, it's a storm in a teacup. But as far as these two guys are concerned, these are best friends. These were proper buddies, helping each other. Obviously Colby bringing his All-American wrestling game to the table. Masvidal bringing his Street Jesus, Miami Boatyard, lifetime of striking to the game. Iron sharpened iron. These two brought each other on so much as fighters. As you say, they used to share the same apartment. They used to spend holidays together. They used to spend time with one another's family, everything else. But sometime around 2018, just before obviously Masvidal here having the year of his life in 2019, Colby picked up the interim belt somewhere along those way. Colby says it's because he overtook Masvidal. Masvidal says it's because he never paid one of their mutual coaches. But whatever it was, for a brief time, it got them both kicked out of ATT. Obviously, Masvidal's got back his hand. He's back training there. But Colby, they didn't see him for dust. It was a major breakup, a major breakdown in what was once a strong relationship. This is bad blood quantified. And of course, Colby can't keep his mouth shut, can he? He just keeps talking and talking and talking, and there's no barrier with him. You know, for me, listen, I don't know about you, Jack, but there's a line. I like a bit of trash talk, but there's a line, and he's most certainly crossed the line in this one.
Yeah, I think it's standard Colby these days. He crossed the line once and he's just sort of never decided to cross back the other side. Like you said, family, girlfriends, wives, kids, called him Catterall Jr. or something like that, I think, as well. So, like you said, it's really got personal, probably a lot more personal than it was maybe a year or so ago. So if it doesn't add any extra pressure, it definitely adds, you know, extra anticipation for us as viewers to watch it.
It's not a face-off unless the local law enforcement are on the stage, as you saw there, gentlemen. Absolutely. That's what we like to do, ram it up to the next level. There's the tail of the tape, as you can see. Age-wise, very similar. There's only 3 years between them. Used to be best pals. Height and reach, similar as well. But when it comes to records, the experience is without any shadow of the man they call Street Jesus. Jack, regarding stylistically, this particular matchup, I'm just reading some of the stats here, right? And Masvidal's faced 10 plus takedown attempts in 5 different UFC fights. I know this is his 51st fight, but he's faced 10 plus in 5 different UFC fights. He's 1-4 in those 5 particular fights, and Colby averages 15 takedown attempts over a 25-minute period. Is that where you see this fight's going to be won and lost? If Colby stands, it gives Jorge more of an opportunity. If he decides to ragdoll him, it could be a very long night for Masvidal.
100%. You know, Colby's not stupid. He knows he's not going to go out there and outstrike Masvidal for 5 rounds. He's probably not going to knock him out.
All right, thank you all for being here for the official weigh-in for UFC 272. Covington versus Masvidal. First fighter to the scale, competing live on pay-per-view on the main card and making his UFC welterweight debut, 14th ranked middleweight, the Trailblazer, Kevin Holland.
Wow, this is straight in there. Listen, we'll get back to your thoughts, Jack, stylistically on that main event, but this is a big one as well. This is a big talking point, Nick. First time in the UFC that we're going to see this guy down at welterweight. He's done it before in previous organisations, but here he is, Kevin Holland.
Yeah, it was 5 years ago when he did it last.
170 pounds, the official weight for Kevin Holland.
Mate, he's not announced on straight in for a bit.
Yeah,
going for a little bit of championship weight as well.
Exactly. He looks good at the weight. He looks strong at the weight. And I think he's sent a bit of a message there to say, listen, this hasn't killed me. I'm a bit 170, a bit championship weight. I didn't need to. I'm first on the scales. I like it. I like it from Kevin Holland.
What do you make of his move back down to 170, Jack?
I think it's the right move for him, to be honest. The fights we have seen
126 for Maria Agapova.
At 185 has been very wrestle heavy. We've had the bigger, stronger guys, the better wrestlers, sort of, you know, take him down and keep him down. And a lot of that does come to strength. I mean, I was speaking to him in April. He fought on the same card as me, and he doesn't cut any weight.
All right, next fighter to the scale, competing in the UFC's featherweight division. I think it's the right move for him. It gives him a lot better chance of being able to compete with the wrestlers. Barbossa.
Nick is one of your favourites, making his way to the scales right now. Obviously stepped down kind of recently, down to feather. He's 2-2 here. Not a pick on him, this fella. Cracking stylistic matchup with Bryce Mitchell.
145.5, the official weight for the legend Edson Barbossa.
When you're in Edson's presence, it used to baffle me how he made lightweight. I've got no idea how he's getting that body down to 145 pounds. It's crazy. Right, but I'll tell you what, write him off at your peril. Bryce Mitchell is about to jump up about 10 levels. It's a tough one for him.
Yeah. It is going to be an interesting matchup, that. Jack, obviously grapple heavy against strike heavy.
Yeah, I don't know what Bryce has got, if he's got a plan B. You know, it's not like Barbossa's notoriously guy that's been held down.
The official weight for Marina Moroz.
A different level altogether. There's not many that's gonna, you know, just go out there and have their own way with Barbossa. He's got pretty good takedown defense, to be fair. And I mean, you know, I'm a big fan of Bryce Mitchell, but he is a little bit one-dimensional in that sense. If he doesn't get him down, I don't see what else he's going to do to sort of change the direction of the fight if he can't take him there.
Yeah. Nick, from a Barbossa point of view, it's going to be interesting to see how he reacts coming into this particular fight, because last time is probably the last time, or the only time, that we've ever seen him outclassed on the feet against Chikadze.
Yeah, and we don't know how that's going to affect him, you know, to get stopped in the third round. That's what he does to people. It doesn't happen to him. So you're right. At this stage of his career, I think it's a good opponent for him. Bryce Mitchell will come to fight. You know, he will come to try and take him down. He knows what he's going to try and do. So I like the fight for Edson. Just the two girls there that ran in as well, Moroz and Agapova. Both former teammates at ATT. Very similar to the main event. Obviously, I think Moroz is still there. Agapova left because there was all kinds of rumors about her private life, which Moroz was spreading. There's a real needle in that fight as well. So not just the main event, but actually Moroz and Agapova's a big former ATT teammates going at it as well.
We just saw Renato Moicano come through there, making 160 on the catch weight. Great work from him, obviously stepping in last minute.
126, the official weight for Tim Elliott.
There he is, getting Tim Elliott's weight. But regarding taking last-minute fights, Jack, I mean, that's pretty impressive. For a guy that used to be feather, coming up now, taking a guy that struggled to make 156, that's a big step from Moicano.
A massive step in competition, in size, you know, like you said, coming down from 170 as well to San Jose, apart from obviously the Fowler fight. So it's going to be a big size difference and a big level jump as well.
He's good, Moicano, though. He's no mug. Like, he's only lost to the very best. You know, he's only lost to Ortega, Aldo, Zombie, Fiziev, you know, those type of guys. So
170, the official weight for Alex Oliveira.
The wild man. Love him.
You love this dude. Go on, tell Jack about this guy's backstory. You know what I mean? He's a little bit promiscuous, isn't he, Nick?
And he got about 15 kids or something like that.
Prelim in the UFC's light
heavyweight
division.
And most of the baby mamas live in the same street. Crazy, man. Crazy.
Your type of fighter, Nick. There you go.
Just a wild man, isn't he? Love it. He fights like one as well.
206, the official weight for Michal Oleksiejczuk.
One of my favorite
light heavyweight division.
One of my favorite walkouts ever is Mike Perry and Oliveira almost having a dance off.
Right, that brings us to one half of the featured prelim live on ESPN in the UFC's lightweight division.
There's a video of Mike Perry dancing in the cage to Oliveira's walkout track. It's brilliant.
Love it.
This guy's really caught the imagination of the fans recently, Jamie Malarkey. Obviously, through COVID, certain fighters did step up, didn't they, and caught the imagination of fighters and took full advantage of that captive audience. Jamie Malarkey's been one of those guys, Nick.
Malarkey.
Yeah, and there's a reason why him versus Jalen Turner's the last fight on the prelims, because it will light the blue touch paper. You know, they only know one way to fight.
All right, we will stay in the lightweight division as we welcome our next athlete.
Is on a 2-0 run, 2 knockouts, absolutely flying. This fight was actually supposed to happen back in 2020 as well. He got knocked back because of the pandemic. So they've both been thinking about each other time, and Turner himself, when we see him, maybe he'll bring a tarantula with him onto the scales like he usually does. Both bonkers. And it will be a good
156 pounds, the official weight for Devontae Smith.
You see, that's the type of look I'm looking for. Jack, when you're going through this stage now, right, you're making weight, you're getting on there. Why are you not posing them more, mate? You know what I mean? You give it the Welsh flag and all that. I get it, man. I need a little bit of one of them.
Next fighter to the scale, competing live.
A little bit of the finger point. I'm just concerned about getting a little drink.
Fans have come to see out of the great state of Arkansas, 11th ranked Thug
the last thing on my mind is doing the old gun thing.
I want to see it for UFC London. Here he is, Bryce Mitchell. He says that the camo shorts are going to be out in force. He's got a big task on his hands tomorrow night against Edson Barbossa.
It's been funny watching his journey because obviously, yeah, exactly, he is a wild
145.5, the official weight for Bryce Mitchell.
He's featured really heavily in the Embedded series and the build up to this show, you know, just out on his farm, looking after his chickens, just in the gym, training away.
Next we get to what is
very similar to Jack, actually. Trains with a father-son partnership. You know, he's got very much part of the family. He didn't know his own father, so his head coach has kind of adopted him as an adopted son. And strange, man. Some of these guys who come from nowhere, not a famous gym, not trained with anybody of note, and yeah, here he is fighting one of the former UFC. He's fighting a former title contender in Barbossa.
116 pounds, the official weight for Marina Rodriguez.
Yeah, you, Jack, but this girl has really caught my imagination in this division recently. I know that there's obviously a fantastic champion in there and there's some good contenders, but Rodriguez, over the last 12 to 18 months, has really pushed herself forward. And you think that if she beats Yan Xiaonan,
all right, next fighter to the scale, fourth ranked in the strawweight division, Rodriguez is
especially the fact that she's a fresh face as well. You know, a lot of the top girls in our division are sort of circling each other between, you know, the belts changing hands. So it would be nice to see her in the mix.
And here's the girl that's taking her on there.
Yeah. You know what? I picked this out on the preview show as my one to watch
Official
on the
weight,
prelims, and I absolutely stick by
for
it.
Yan Xiaonan.
I thought Rodriguez was the female fight 3-0 last year. She was sensational in fights she was supposed to lose. Yao Nan. They both only ever lost to Carla Esparza in the UFC, who probably will be fighting Rose Namajunas next for the belt. So absolutely, whoever comes out of that fight, for me, is right behind Carla Esparza to take on Rose.
Now, this is an interesting one for you, Jack, because Boom Kelleher is taking on a geezer that should have been taking on you at UFC London. We'll get to Umar Nurmagomedov next, but obviously, what do you make of this guy?
I was just going to say, I thought this was at a bantamweight. I didn't realise they'd bumped it up the feather, but he's a good guy, Keller. You know, he likes the guillotine. He's heavy-handed. I was actually offered to fight Keller in my debut, but it never come to light. It wasn't available, I think. So I've been matched up
competing in the UFC flyweight division, 15th ranked Tagir Ulanbekov.
He's in a good run at the moment. Kelleher's on a 5-2 run, and he's just got a brand new 4-fight UFC deal as well. Even though he's been 11 years a pro, he's still very much a live contender in the round bantam and featherweight.
125.
I've seen him asking
Conor
McGregor to corner him as well for the fight. Obviously, with Khabib going to be in Umar's corner, I've seen him tweeting McGregor relentlessly asking, does he want to corner him? I wonder how the UFC would have caught with that, along
next
with
fighter
Colby
to the
and
scale,
George as well.
set to compete in the UFC's featherweight division, Umar Nurmagomedov.
Here's your mate. Now, what
can't
was
run forever, Jack? He can't run forever.
What was not forever? We'll get him eventually.
What was the reason given to you that he was obviously off the London card?
I was told that he couldn't get into London. I don't know whether it was visa or travel issues or what, but we was told he couldn't get into London, and obviously the week or so following, I seen Khabib said something that they wasn't sure why he was pulled out and that they wanted him to fight in Vegas. So I'm not sure. There's a bit of confusion
next fighter
around
to the
it.
scale competing
as far
in the
as
UFC's light heavyweight division, Kennedy in
to fight, but who knows? I mean, I don't think the London card was announced at the time, so I'm not sure what happened with that one. But the future, definitely one day.
Yeah, man. You can't run forever.
Official weight 206 for Kennedy in Nzechukwu.
I love that. Nick Peet just causing absolute mayhem because his mate's on the show. Yeah? You know that's going to get clipped and sent to somebody.
He's like my Shug Knight.
I'm glad you said Shug Knight and not like Paul.
A man who needs no introduction. Former UFC lightweight champion of the world, competing in the co-main event at a catch weight of 160 pounds, Rafael Dos Anjos.
Now, we haven't seen Rafael for a period of time, but I tell you something, he's absolutely no mug. It would have been wonderful to see him again.
160 pounds, the official weight for the former champ, Rafael Dos Anjos. Co-main event
it's been a long time since he was champion in 2015, obviously. You know, interesting to learn this week that he's actually gone back to Brazil to do his fight camp. He's actually moved back to Brazil. So this is a guy that left Brazil for California, based in California, then spent an awful lot of time out in Singapore around that kind of setup over there with Evolve. And now he's actually gone back to his roots in Brazil. In fact, he even said he's going to move his family back to Brazil. So kind of like going full circle. But I get a feeling Brazil, in a very same vein to the UK, the level of coaching and the level of bodies in the gym to have a full-on UFC caliber fight camp is now pretty much caught up with the US. There was a time when 10 years ago or so, you know, if you went sparring and training in the US, in California, in Florida, then forget about being a contender. But I think these days, especially here in the UK, I'm sure Jack will agree, we've kind of caught up now. You can get quality wrestling here in the UK. You can get quality grappling, quality jiu-jitsu, quality striking. The sparring partners are here. Gyms are full of high-caliber fighters now. It's not like there's just one or two around the country.
Yeah, like you said, it does come full circle, because I remember going out to Jackson's to train and this was back 5 years ago. And even then, I remember like sparring a lot of the American guys and wrestling and grappling with them and thinking it's not so much the quality anymore, it's just the quantity, the amount of people that's on the mats. You know, in terms of they've got probably 80 guys training full time, whereas over here, maybe in the UK and Wales, you may have 15, 20 guys training full time. But in terms of quality of sparring and quality of coaching and like you said, the wrestling and the grappling especially, where we did lack for a couple of years, but back initially, without a shadow of a doubt, caught them up. Look at Arnold Allen, Darren Till, Leon Edwards, people like myself. We're more than capable of taking on these top guys now, and there really is no need to sort of go himself out of a big gym in America, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah.
Can I just point out, obviously you can see on screen, boys, it's a fully interactive show, this. For people that are just joining us, you can tweet in, text in, do whatever you need. All the contacts are on the bottom of the screen. You can get in contact and throw questions our way and we'll get them on the screen for you. First and foremost, Wrestly Snipes is a phenomenal handle for any social media. Congratulations. That's outstanding. But they're obviously paying homage to the king. That's what you're getting referred to as here, mate. The king.
The king.
On the show. Looking forward to, obviously, the London show in a couple of weeks' time. And we kind of spoke, just before we came on air, we were speaking about the real boom, not only in British MMA, as Nick was just alluding to there, but the fan love for MMA over the last 2 years. The UFC really has captured the imagination with their no-nonsense attitude to just cracking on through a global pandemic and, of course, keeping the levels, the standards, the matches that we've come accustomed to an all-time high. I genuinely feel we're in a real golden period, not just for talent, but also for fan interest, Jack.
Yeah, like we discussed earlier, I've got friends now that would probably only ever tune in to watch MMA and the UFC when I fought. Whereas now, because of the pandemic and the UFC being the only real live sports show that's on, they tune in every week. They're watching the Contender Series. They can't wait for the Ultimate Fighter. They're watching the fight nights. They're not just tuning in for me and Conor McGregor no more. And like you said, popularity-wise, I think it's probably in the best spot it's ever been in. Is really starting to creep his way into the mainstream now. You haven't so much got to have a friend or a family member involved in the sport to want to watch it anymore.
How many people have been onto you for tickets, pal?
Oh, don't even ask. Don't even ask. Do you know, I've stopped. I had to message someone on Twitter because they messaged me and said, I've been trying to get hold of you for an interview. And I was like, I haven't checked my Instagram DMs. I've got like 4 people who I've favorited on there. I will not check them now because it's literally non-stop. Can you get me tickets for London? Oh, I've got the money here waiting. If I PayPal you the money, can you get me tickets? I'm like, I can't get you tickets. I don't know how many times I've got to say it. Sold out means sold out. It's done. There's nothing I can do. They're like, oh, just give Dana a ring. I was like, I haven't got Dana's number. How am I meant to give Dana a ring? Dana's Jack. Can I have 100 tickets for London? You don't mind, do you?
Dave in Tesco's just been on to me, pal. I'll 16. Yeah, he wants a couple of tickets. Can you sort him out? Yeah, no bother, mate.
The best one was I had a guy message me like, Jackie boy, what's happening, legend? I need 7 tickets for UFC London. So I clicked on his profile. He doesn't even follow me. I was like, he doesn't even follow me. He must have sent it to every fighter on the card and just changed the first name and hope to get 7 tickets from his mates. I was like, the cheat. Amazing. The absolute cheat.
Oh, man.
God
loves the Shire.
Yeah, of course, man. Well, whilst we're on the London card, I saw a little message that flicked up on my screen there a minute ago, and it was regarding your opponent. Obviously, it was supposed to be Umar Nurmagomedov. He's fighting this weekend against Keller. You're obviously in there against Timur, mate. Tell us about that matchup and where you see that fight. Where you see that fight then puts you in these bantamweight rankings. I
think on paper it's a matchup that everyone should and would be looking forward to on the card. It's a clash of styles. You know, we do things very differently. We're both good strikers and good wrestlers, but our styles in terms of striking are very different, and our wrestling styles are very different. So I think it's going to match up very well, especially for the fans. And he's in a little bit of a similar spot to me. You know, he's just on that verge of breaking into the rankings. He's got a lot of hype around his name. He comes from a good gym, trains with guys like Frankie Edgar, Marlon, and all those type of guys. So a win for either one of us is obviously going to hopefully push us towards getting to fight one of those bigger names. And it's a fight that gets me excited, to be honest. He's a guy I look at that I know he's dangerous. I know he's very good everywhere, and that's the type of fight that motivates me. And I am one of those guys. I think I truly believe the better level of opponent you put me in there with, the better I'm going to look, and that's something I'm looking forward to. Obviously, in 2 weeks' time.
Nick, from our point of view, obviously looking into that fight, it absolutely smells as a winner of this will most certainly go into the top 15. And then you look at that top 15 and the names that are in and around that bantamweight division. Geez, man, there's some massive fights on the horizon. If you can in London.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's as you say, that bantamweight, it's just a plethora of riches, isn't it? You know, everybody from the 15 up is a name that you would absolutely jump at. You bite someone's hand off to take. And Jack being in the position that he's in now, you know, a big win in London, there is nowhere else to go. There's no real other opponents. They can't just keep him waiting forever. At some stage, he's got to fight somebody in the top 15. Opportunity. When you're looking at the likes of Dominic Cruz and Frankie Edgar and Sean O'Malley and Marlon Moraes and all these kind of names, they're not even top 5, by the way. They're guys below top 5. There's so much, there's so many names there which scream headline. And I think that's what Jack should be thinking about now. It's like, okay, this big opportunity against a dangerous opponent in London, make a statement, look to end the year in style. And then when you end the year in style, go, right, you know, UFC London next year, I want main events. Get me a Dominic Cruz, get me a Frankie Edgar, get me a main event in London. And they all sell. They all make sense to me. So we're this close. You know, Team Shaw, we are this close, Team Shaw. Yeah, exactly.
Shug's at it again. Here he is.
We Shug is back. I hope he turns up the UFC London, right, in a big red 3-piece suit, big gold chain on. Just come and do the post-fight interview for me. I'll just be like, oh, my representative is going to take it from you.
Cigar. Perfect, man. That's what you need, mate.
Just to add to that as well, though, there's probably, including myself, like you've got the top 15, but there's probably 5 to 10 guys just outside of that as well who all deserve to fight for a ranking or deserve to be ranked. It just shows how deep the division actually is at the minute. And, you know, to be part of a division that's so strong at this, you know, in a time where, like we said, the viewership on MMA is probably the best it's ever been. How can you not be excited for the future, and how can you not get up for these fights? You know, it's going to get bigger and bigger and better and better, and it's awesome to be a part of it.
Yeah, and as you said, from a British fan's point of view, once upon a time, it just used to be our mate Bisping. That was it. That was kind of it. And no disrespect to everybody else. There was a couple of other, you know, you had Ross Pearson doing his thing, you had Dan Hardy doing his thing, you had a couple of others. But it was one that you thought, yeah, you could get yourself some UFC gold. Now you look around and you think to yourself, possibility there, possibility there, possibility there. So exciting from a fan's point of view because there's so many opportunities to be bringing those type of fights to British soil because it's viable now as a business model for the UFC.
It'd be nice to see more than one British show a year as well, wouldn't it? You know, especially with the likes of, you know, why not bring it to Wales? Why not take it to Liverpool for, you know, where, you know, Paddy and Darren and Molly are going to sell, you know, Birmingham even. The UFC have been to Birmingham before. Just let's put a Leon Edwards headline in, you know, if he wins a belt or when he wins a belt, let's just let him headline in Birmingham in a big arena as well. It'd be nice to not have to just focus on this UFC London once a year. Obviously, it's great that they come here even the once, but 3-4 British shows a year, the market for it, you've seen that by how fast the tickets sold, and the fact that the British and the UK scene is so deep now, we can jump all over the shop. You know, why keep it to one place once a year? Let's do it multiple times.
That's it. And we're easy to get to for all the Europeans. Just dip on in. No problem. Get on a little flight. There you go. Easy work, mate. Easy work. For people that are just joining us, what are we? 22 minutes into the official weigh-in for UFC 272. So thank you very much for your time on this Friday afternoon. I can tell you that we've not seen anybody from the main event as of yet. So Colby and Jorge have not come through as of yet. Both guys in the co-main, which was a catch weight at 160, Rafael dos Anjos and Renato Moicano, they've come through, weighed in, and they're out there now rehydrating, as have Edson and Bryce Mitchell, Kevin Holland and Alex Oliveira. We've not seen the heavyweights. You're going to see this as a trend today, Jack. Heavyweights take the mick out of us, pal. You know what I mean? They could weigh in now if they wanted to, but they're having a double breakfast. You know, them heavyweights. So we won't see them for a period of time. We're still waiting on Jalen Turner, who's the top of the prelims against Jamie Mullarkey, who has weighed in. And Nikolai Negumorenu is also still missing from the prelims. And the only ones from the early prelims is Ludovic Klein and Dustin Jacoby. So what's that? About 6-7 fighters still to come. Everybody else is done and dusted. Nobody has missed weight as of yet. And as I said, it's a fully interactive show. There's loads of people getting in contact with various messages. I believe we've got something. I think with you being on the show, Jack, there's a lot of people obviously wanting to speak to us about UFC London. Nick, I'll put this on your toes, mate. If Volkov can't go to UFC London because of obviously the current situation that's going on with his homeland, who should Aspinall face, in your opinion, mate? I'll give you a clue, right? I'll give you a clue. I ain't got my shoes with me, but if I had my shoes with me, I'd be like this right now. You got your shoes? Go on, get your shoes.
There you go. I just haven't got a beer. I haven't got a beer handy, unfortunately, which is unlike me on a Friday afternoon. But yeah, obviously, listen, from a fan's perspective, how incredible would it be if Tai Tuivasa got brought in at the last minute? Of course, that would be insane. I think a lot of the top of the heavyweight division, unfortunately, is quite tied up, though. Blades, Rosenstruck, Dicus, Tybura, I think are all kind of set to face one another. So I think the UFC might have to break one of those fights up to make it happen. But listen, we will get a main event. Will it be Volkov right now? I'll be honest, it's probably 50-50. But I was with Tom Aspinall on Monday. He is 100% set for London, and he has been assured that his main event will take place regardless of who the opponent will be. So, yeah.
There is a few good names, and I'm sure it will all get figured out in the not too distant future. But as of now, it is Volkov against Tom Aspinall as our main event. What did you make of this narrative this week, gentlemen? Because obviously in that co-main event we had Fiziev fallout. I'll come back to this in a minute whilst we're getting people in.
Division live on Fight Pass and ESPN Plus. Ludovic Klein.
Ludovic Klein coming through from the prelims.
Slept through his alarm.
Prelims.
He sure did.
156 pounds, the official weight for Ludovic Klein.
What's the mentality of a fighter at this stage, Jack? Like you just said there, slept through his alarm. Is your thought process get in there as quick as I possibly can, get it done, and then I can get back to rehydrating? Yeah,
that's always been my analogy on it. Obviously, unless you need the extra time to shred the rest of the weight, but you know, as speaking personally, we always try and, I think there's like the cut off to get on the first bus to the weigh-ins is like an hour before. So we always, it's literally a first come first serve. Always racing to try and be, you know, at the beginning of, or if not, you know, second or third in the queue. Get on there, get it done, and start filling the body back up. You know, the longer you spend rehydrating, the longer you've got to recover. Obviously, the better.
Oh, it always makes me giggle, this, right? When you're not all like in the hotel and the weigh-ins in that particular hotel, when you've got to get transport to the weigh-in, obviously getting on a bus, tetchy, because you haven't eaten, you've cut weight all night, and you're getting on the bus with other fighters, often that you're fighting against. Mate, this is a mad game. What are you doing for a living, pal?
Torture.
You know what I mean? Come on. It's a mad game.
And there's sometimes, like, obviously in the Apex, they keep the two corners separate. I mean, I fought like in Fight Island and out in Copenhagen, and you can be sat like, you can be waiting to weigh in, and if the guy, or if your opponent is obviously one in front of you or one behind you in the queue, you stood this close to each other, both dehydrated, both a little bit antsy, and you just think, obviously, I'm chilled. But some people, they get head up and they got angry personalities, and you think it surprises me that there's no more kickoffs before getting on the scale than what there actually is, to be honest.
Always baffles me, mate. It is a mad game. As I was going to say there, boys, before we were interrupted with more weigh-ins, what did you make of this week? Obviously, we've got a catch weight fight in the co-main event. It was supposed to be Rafael Fiziev against Rafael dos Anjos. It then fell off, and there was a bit of chat back and forth that it could be a quick turnaround for Islam Makhachev, a fight that has been made in the past with Rafael dos Anjos, and then they were talking about catch weights and various things like that. Now, we've seen interviews, Nick, this week with Dana, and Dana said, I thought it was happening. I went to bed, I got up the morning after, and then all of a sudden, it wasn't happening. What have you made of all that? And then what have you made of the chat that has come off the back of it, where Dana's now saying, well, if he's not taking that this weekend, he's going to have to fight Dariush again, because that was his original fight from last weekend just gone, where Bobby Green stepped in before he gets his shot at the title, even though he's on an unbelievable streak.
Yeah, quite clearly, judging by Dana's response there, the work was done. Makhachev had agreed to face RDA. RDA clearly agreed to take the fight. Here's Moicano now, who actually has stepped in. But it was interesting that he put those comments, because clearly part of Islam Makhachev bouncing through and taking on RDA on Saturday, part of that conversation was clearly, if I win this, do I face the winner of Gaethje versus Oliveira? To which evidently the UFC had said yes. So for then to go do a U-turn and go, actually, no, we're not going to bother now, and they have to bring in Moicano, which they have done. forcing Dana to say, well, tell you what, you're still going to have to fight Beneil Dariush now then. All very strange. I don't know whether it was, Khabib and the team and Islam kind of, just trying to make some positive press, but then kind of blew back on them a bit when RDA was like, listen, I'm down for it. Let's do it. Maybe they just second-guessed it for a moment and thought, listen, we say one thing. These Dagestanis can fight, man. Across the board, they can fight. But have a look at Umar Nurmagomedov. Jack knows. Have a look at Khabib's run. Certainly have a look at Islam. They don't take fights unless they're 100% ready. They're not concerned about pulling out of fights. They pull out of fights to make sure that they are 100% on the day. Now, listen, a lot of them have got unbeaten records, so you can't really argue. But when you look at people like Bobby Green, when you look at people like Conor in the past, when you look at like Hooker and even Conor McGregor, as fight fans, we want them to roll on. As fight fans, you get a big buzz when you're like, come on then, yeah. Late notice, let's do it. Roll on to next week, boom, let's do it. There's a reason you buy into that as a fan. But, it's all business for the Dagestani crew. They're just like, nah, man, you know what? We thought about it. We negotiated it. But actually, we're going to do what's right for Islam Makhachev right here, right now. It's not a quick turnaround against RDA.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens next in this division now, Jack, because off the back of the weekend, maybe some fans had a debate, would a win against Bobby Green in that particular manner be the cherry on top of the cake to seal it for Islam Makhachev to be next in line after Charles Oliveira and Justin Gaethje? And I think a lot of fans would have said, yeah, okay, Islam Makhachev's probably next in line. But the noise now off the back of what we're talking about there, and you see the text coming up on the screen, where Dana said, no, it's going to be Dariush next. And don't get me wrong, that's a great fight, Dariush versus Islam Makhachev. I'd love to see that particular fight. But given the time frames, I'm playing devil's advocate here, right? So you've got a fight between Oliveira and Gaethje. It's probably going to go off summertime-wise. And then you've got the fight that would have to be made for Dariush to get himself fit again to fight Islam Makhachev. Certainly he's got a titanium rod in his leg, Does he come steaming back in, straight in? No, notorious for a title shot. I mean, that's the rumor, and that's the noise that has been made this week.
If anyone is going to do it, it would be the Mac. Let's be honest about it. Timing wise, it's starting to like you said, the stars are starting to align a little bit. It's starting to line up pretty much to when he wants to come back. I seen an interview with him saying, maybe Charles should hold off and see what sort of presents itself. And you talk about the legend of Conor McGregor, like these short notice opponent changes and fighting anyone. Imagine we get to, let's say, a July or an August or June where Oliveira and Gaethje are going to fight, and for some reason Gaethje's got to pull out or Charles has got to pull out last minute, and then he slots for an interim belt or for a title belt and ends up winning the belt. It's insane, but nothing would surprise you with Conor McGregor. So it is going to be tough, I think, for Islam to just expect to slot straight in for that next in line for the title, especially if Conor's serious about coming back and fighting for the belt. Mm-hmm. We know he needs one win, if even that. We're talking here now. He hasn't won a fight since Cowboy, and we're talking that he could jump straight in and fight for the belt. So the rules of the game change when Conor McGregor's involved, as we all know. So, and listen, I'm not against it. I'll be up for watching McGregor fight Gaethje or watching McGregor fight Charles. That won't bother me one bit.
No, I don't think it'll bother the majority of fans, Nick. And I know that obviously we're seeing a few tweets and whatnot coming up on the screen at the moment. And Conor's obviously just tweeted a moment or two ago about his next scan, I think, on his leg being Monday before he can get the all clear, before getting back into the gym. The stars do seem to be aligning, man. We might be getting something in the summer.
Listen, Dana himself said this week, if you think Conor McGregor can't come back from where he is and go straight into a title shot, you're absolutely mental. Of course he can. He generates more money than any fighter in the history of the sport. So there you go, right there and then. Okay, it'd be different if there was a queue of fighters, a natural successor. Gaethje kind of deserves the next shot. I'll give you that, no problem. Big, huge win over Chandler. Would I stop watching UFC in disgust because Conor McGregor slipped in front of him? No, I wouldn't. Would I look forward to that fight week even more? Yes, I would, because it's Conor McGregor and he can kind of do anything he wants. Listen, I'm a Conor McGregor fan. I'd like Conor McGregor to somehow get back to where he was when he was changing the game. I'd like to see him get a big win before he takes on a tremendous force like Charles Oliveira. But I'm certainly not going to be upset if he just jumps the queue and goes straight in for a title shot now, because if it wasn't for Conor McGregor, the ceiling on the sport and what a fighter can earn would still be here instead of all the way up here. He changed the game.
What about a McGregor versus Islam #1 contender fight? How about that? Dariush is injured. Let's play that. Let's play that. Let's play that.
All right, next fighter to the scale is the man around whom this fight card was
You're a
built.
bad
Former
man.
UFC interim welterweight champion and the #1 contender, Colby Chaos Covington.
Looks happy, does Colby, skipping into the weigh-in room. Let's see where he's at. Obviously, it's a non-title fight, this.
170.5, the official weight for Colby Covington.
Gives it the old 305 on the scales. He says that he's the king of Miami. We're going to find out that on Saturday night as he's taking on his old best mate, Jorge Masvidal. There you go. He loves it, doesn't he? In and out. What have you made of his demeanour this week, Jack? Obviously, shades on, chains on, no shirt and the old suit and what have you. Obviously, doing Colby things on the microphone as well. What have you made of him?
I'll be honest. He looks very, very confident to me this week. You know, he always plays the act, Colby. But you sort of seen in the Usman fight weeks, as confident as he was, he knew he was in for a serious test. And it's just something about him this week. He's got that little bit extra swagger, a little bit extra bit of confidence. He looks absolutely shredded. You know, the leanest I've probably.
All right, next fighter to the scale, competing in the UFC's heavyweight division.
There's something about him this week. He just seems like
Sergey Spivak.
He knows something that we don't, or he's got something in his mind that's obviously filling him with confidence.
I completely agree with that. Just watching the interview that Bisping did with him, which is available on the BT Sport YouTube channel, there's just something fresh about Colby this week. No doubt about that. Sergey Spivak is currently on the scales.
243.5, the official weight for Sergey Spivak.
He's had breakfast.
Nick, just on Spivak. Yeah, he has. He's had 2 breakfasts, mate. Listen, Nick, just on Spivak, because he was on a nice little tear until he ran into Tom Aspinall, wasn't he? You know, got a wonderful opportunity this weekend against Greg Hardy just to re-announce himself back to the heavyweight division.
Yeah, because Greg Harvey is still a work in progress. He's still someone transitioning from an NFL career to a fighting career, and he's doing it in front of our eyes. And even Greg Hardy admits to that as well. So it's a big opportunity for Spivak on a big pay-per-view against a fighter that a lot of American fans are going to tune in to watch, whether they want him to win or to lose. Probably most of Greg Hardy to lose. So he's going to have a lot of support this weekend. And as you say, it's a big fight for him. He was 3-0. He's got a win over Taito Avasa on his record, which is looking better by the day as well. And listen, there's no shame in losing to someone as fast and elusive and different as Tom Aspinall, because Tom's a different type of heavyweight. Next generation heavyweight. But yeah, you're right. It's a perfect opponent to bounce back against on a huge show.
Dustin Jacoby about to make his way. Kicking us off, these guys on the early prelims. Taking on Mikhail.
205.5, the official weight for Dustin Jacoby.
Alex Sechuk, there you go. That's that done. And that is the completion of the early prelims. So if you have just joined us, everybody on the early prelims has come through. They've hit the scales. They've done their job. Waiting on the prelims. 2 fighters, one of which is Jalen Turner on the top of those prelims, getting us all underway. And as we head to the main card, we're still waiting for Greg Hardy, who's just finishing off his 3rd breakfast before Masvidal join us as well. Like I said, it's a fully interactive program. So do keep your texts, tweets, and interaction coming our way. All the contacts are on the bottom of the screen. I'm sure we've got a little bit more. Let's get some more up on the screen and get more people involved in the show. What's the likelihood? This has come from Explicit MMA. What is the likelihood that Jorge and Colby shake hands after the fight? Do you think the beef is real? Keep up the good work. Thank you very much for that. Not a cat and owls chance. I'll go, lads. Absolutely not a cat in hell's chance. I honestly think, Jack, I don't know about you, if this is a brutal war over 25 minutes, these two will still be scrapping in the hospital afterwards, mate. Someone's going to have to keep an eye on them. You're going to need some law enforcement just to keep them apart.
Yeah, this is a Nick Diaz, Diesel Riggs job. That is not, like you said, they could tear it up for 100 5-minute rounds, and then they're still gonna want to fight in a car park afterwards. So I just can't see it. You can see the hate in each other's voice and in their face when they interact with each other. Like that press could see Masvidal wanted to kill him. You know, he was ready to go there and then. And the same with Colby. Like, I don't think this animosity is an act with Colby either. I think that they do generally dislike each other. A lot of things have been said. So I think if you can bet on there being no handshake, definitely bet the no on that one.
I'd agree with that. Nick, and Jack just touched upon it there. There's always build-up, there's trash talk, and there are people that go a touch too far sometimes.
Competing in the UFC's light heavyweight division out of Romania, Nicolae Negumereanu.
On the prelims, Negumereanu. I feel for the commentary team with the pronunciations of names in this particular fight. This is going to be a nightmare. You're just going to have to go red corner, blue corner.
Official weight for Negumereanu Nicolae.
There you go. No, I'm not. My producer's saying, "Go on, give it a go. Give it a go." No, not a Nicolae Negumereanu. Where were I with a train of thought there, Nick? I was just about to lead you into something.
I think we were still talking about the main event, where we were still talking about this, whether this rivalry is real, this shaking hands. I agree. You know, I think so much has been said now. I think Colby Covington just has this way of absolutely rubbing people up the wrong way. You know, there's no filter with him. And sometimes I think you can say certain things and there's just no coming back from it. And he doesn't care. You know, he understands the business. He understands that, you know, his trash talk and the character that he puts around himself, this persona that he portrays in public, has taken him, let's be honest, from an all-star American wrestler, mid of welterweight to very much a title contender. And you know, when you're a grinder, which is what he is, when you're a grinder, or certainly what he was, you need to kind of separate yourself from the pack. And now he's done that by basically slamming the door closed on his former friends, teammates, colleagues, whatever you're going to call it. Now, he's probably earned more money than he would have done to remain as Jorge Masvidal's training partner for the rest of his life. So in a lot of ways, I applaud him, because at the end of the day, he's paying his own mortgage. He's putting bread on his own table, and it doesn't matter how many teammates or whatever help you along the way. At the end of the day, this is a very short business. You know, if you're a prize fighter, you've got to get in, get out, try and keep your faculties intact and make as much money and make as much noise as humanly possible. You can fight forever on the peripheries of cards and come out of the sport and have to go and find a real job. You can do what done, and you can switch up the volume on your personality. You can, you know, start rattling a few cages, and you can make yourself a pay-per-view star, and that's what he's done. Listen, he's not the first to do it. Chael Sonnen did exactly the same thing. Chael Sonnen was a run-of-the-mill middleweight. He started opening his mouth, he started trash talking, he became the king of trash talk, and suddenly got himself a title shot. Almost took the title away from Anderson Silva, in fact. So, and made a fortune. And Colby's doing exactly things. So I don't hate the game, but for me, there's just been one or two lines that he's not crossed, but took and run and leap and jumped over. But hey, I'm not his accountant. You know, if I was his accountant, I'd be delighted.
What are you yakking on about? You've just agreed with Jack Shaw that you're going to be his shug coming in with the old suit, bright red suit on, Sunshine.
I'll do the trash talking. I'll do the trash talking. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, spoken like a true Shug Knight. That was.
Whilst we've got a little bit of break in the action, gentlemen, we've seen obviously on social media a couple of gentlemen signing themselves new UFC contracts. Two lads that have been thick as thieves, it seems, out in Stockholm, in Sweden. The Smesh brothers, as they are going as now. Khamzat Chimaev, Darren Till. Do you know something from a Darren Till point of view, Jack? I'm delighted that this happened. We've spoken to him a couple of times off the back of the Brunson defeat. And it's always refreshing when you speak to a fighter that's not in denial, that is open and admits, listen, there are holes in my game. I'm good at this. I need to round things off and I need to get better in these particular departments. How do I go and get better in these departments? Well, I'll tell you what, I'll go and pick on the best guy who's the best at doing the thing that I'm not as good at in my kind of weight classes, and I'll go and team up with him. It's been brilliant to see, I think, and I'm sure that Darren's getting a lot of benefit. Likewise, Khamzat getting a lot of benefit working with Darren.
Yeah, it's been brilliant to watch. I've been watching the behind the scenes stuff they've been doing, and I watched Darren do an interview with Brett Okamoto, and just the way he was speaking about Kamzat and saying just being around him and feeling his sort of, just taking influence and sort of inspiration from his commitment and how fit he is and his mindset has done wonders for him in like a space of 2 weeks. And I think that's what Darren needs, just to shake things up a little bit for him. He's obviously world class. He maybe needs a little bit of a change or a little bit of a different view and a different sort of insight on things. And being around someone like Kamzat, who's got all this hype and got all this sort of, these people talking about him and saying he's going to be the next Khabib and he's this and he's that. And you can see when he says he truly believes he's going to run through the division like as if there's no problem. He's going to run through welterweight and run through middleweight. That's all he keeps talking about. So for Darren to be around someone who's talking and believing in that type of thing, then it's obviously going to bring on his mindset as well. And it's like to see someone like Darren Till who's at the top of his game, looking at the young up-and-comer and just the way he's not afraid to admit he's learning things from him. He's learning different aspects of the wrestling, but learning from his mindset as well. It's very promising for me, and I think it's the start of probably a new sort of the turn of a new leaf for Darren, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't agree that it's that it's necessarily Darren thinking there's holes in his game and he needs to go and spend time with somebody that's got a strong grappling game. I don't kind of agree with that. I think Darren's got a great rounded out game. I think there's an awful lot of time in Brazil, and if you've ever seen him on the mats, even going full throttle with Tom Aspinall, I'm telling you now, he's got a good ground game. I think it's you touched on it there. The most important thing for me is the mental side of it, because Kamzat and the way Kamzat trains, and he doesn't do anything evidently but train. Kamzat, and all he ever does is talk about becoming the best, becoming a Hall of Famer, two-weight champion in 2 weight divisions, all that kind of stuff. That was Darren when he lived in Brazil. That was Darren when he first moved back to the UK from Brazil, when he first got into the UFC. All he did was train. All he did was talk about becoming one of the greats. That's all he talked about, and all he ever worked towards. But obviously, you do get distracted. You do get distracted by the fame. He's headlined many UFC cards now. He's probably financially done very well. He's got a lot of business interest now outside of the UFC as well. And these things detract you along the way. And I think just being around Kamzat, the best thing for Darren Till is to see someone that's got the mindset that he used to have. Single-minded approach. Nothing else in life matters except training. I'm training towards which is to realize my potential and be one of the greatest of all time. That's where Kamzat is. It's all he talks about, all he does. And I think it's been nice for Darren to be around that and catch back on and go, wait a minute. That was the stuff I was saying 6 years ago. That was the mentality I had 6 years ago. I wasn't getting out of shape. I wasn't doing this. I wasn't doing that. I was all about fighting, all about improving as a mixed martial artist, all about defining my legacy. So I like the fact that that's what's rubbed off on him most. And now, listen, not only have they gone on well in Stockholm, they've now jumped on a plane to Vegas together, and then now in Las Vegas together as well. So mate, it's beautiful. It's the start of a wonderful relationship that, hey, who knows? Maybe one day it'll go the same way as Colby and Jorge, and we might have ourselves another, frenemies job down the line. But right here, right now, I think they're both getting something out of being with each other. And I tell you what, I fear for Darren Till's next opponent, because I think it'll be a revitalised Darren Till.
What do you make of the matchup that is being rumoured for April 9th, UFC 273, Jack, where Khamzat Chimaev is getting himself one of the top dogs? He's getting himself Gilbert Burns. You win that, you're next in line, aren't you? After, of course, our own Leon Edwards.
Yeah, I think especially because of the hype around Khamzat, the fact that everyone can't wait to see what he does next. If he can go in there and beat Gilbert in the same sort of fashion, well, just beat him in general. You could take him 3 rounds and beat him, and it's still going to put him obviously next in line after Leon. But imagine he goes in there and does to him what he's done to the last couple of guys. Then things start to click in your mind. And is this guy actually as good as he's telling us he is? Like, I'll be honest with you, I was stood by him in Fight Island at the swimming pool, and I was scared of him just stood next to him. So to be in there, to be stood in front of him when he's raging and screaming down the mic, he is an out and out. You can tell he just lives and breathes this sport. All he wants to do is fight, and not only does he want to fight, but he's been calling for these guys after his debut against John Phillips. I mean, he's a scary guy, and if he can go in there and that's like, make no mistake, Gilbert is if anyone's going to test him, it's going to be Gilbert, especially with his ground game, his power, and he's been in there with the best there is to offer in the division. But if he can run through Gilbert like he has some of the other guys, then the division may well be in trouble.
Listen, I'm not condoning this, Nick, but we've got to be realistic. We know that this is a business, and we've just been speaking about the possibility of Conor McGregor coming straight back in and fighting for the lightweight championship of the world. April 9th is UFC 273, where Khamzat Chimaev is supposed to be fighting Gilbert Burns. We know that Kamaru's just had hand surgery. He's out, he's rehabilitating, but we've also been told that Leon Edwards will be next. But we're looking at a period of time where June, July, August, that's the time frames that we're talking. If Khamzat Chimaev comes in and does something absolutely mind-blowing against Gilbert Burns, I'm not condoning it, I don't want this to happen, but if he does he leapfrog Leon Edwards, and is he next?
Yeah, listen, I've spoken. Listen, Leon is way overdue a title shot. Everybody knows it. You don't have to be British to know that Leon Edwards is way overdue an opportunity in this welterweight division. But we have seen him fight Kamaru Usman before. If you're Kamaru Usman and you're the UFC and you've got this fresh meat in terms of Khamzat, who has just looked absolutely sensational, everything he's done so far. If he were to jump up, and it would be a big jump up in levels to get a victory over the likes of Gilbert Burns, who I think is ranked above Leon in the rankings for what they're worth right now anyway. Of course, if you're Leon Edwards, of course you're concerned. Of course he's been given this opportunity potentially in April. This soapbox opportunity that if he turns up and puts in a big performance against the former title contender, against Kamaru's former teammate, and makes a statement, then of course you're going to be concerned, because Usman's coming back June, July, and that the timeline for that would be absolutely perfect. And you know what? Khamzat's not going to get on the mic and go, yeah, I've just destroyed him, and I tell you what, once Leon Edwards is done with Kamaru Usman, I'm next. He's not going to say that. He's going to go, why get that British guy in the way? Get him out the way. I'm next. And fans are going to go mental over it. So if I was Leon, I would be absolutely concerned at the moment. I would want the UFC to not only lock that fight in with Kamaru prior to Chimaev versus Burns, I'd want to see the poster. I'd say to Dana, I want to see the poster with me and Usman on it before that fight even happens, because I am not being stepped over again.
Well, there's a little bit of good news, because I think this has come from Kamaru Usman's social media, where he's basically saying, or his TMZ, sorry, where Leon Edwards in the octagon, September, Canelo Alvarez in the boxing ring. July, Leon Edwards, and September in the boxing ring. Listen, Kamaru, come on, man. Let's not get too giddy here, right? First one, 100%, my friend. International Fight Week. Let's do that. Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman for the championship. And if he is successful, Kamaru Usman against Leon Edwards, it's not an easy fight. Leon is most certainly got better, an awful lot better, as has Kamaru Usman since their first meeting. The victor of that particular fight, I think we'll be facing Khamzat Chimaev, because just the tear that he's on at the moment, boys, I believe in hype trains. You know me. You've watched this show many times, Jack. You know the score, pal. We've got to get carried away. We've got to get on the Khamzat train and not be railing this train until we get to that title fight. I'm a little bit concerned, though, Nick, that Kamaru Usman is already starting to think of flicking over into the world of boxing for a money fight against Canelo Alvarez. It's not competitive, with all due respect to Kamaru Usman, but I can understand the financial ramifications for him.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, financially, of course, a fight against Canelo will get him, millions of dollars, because the spectacle that it is, and Canelo's the biggest pay-per-view draw in fight sports. But let's be serious here. That's the wrong way he should be looking. Yes, Khamzat is absolutely a worthy challenger, but I've said it before, man. If I'm Kamaru Usman, I'm looking up. I'm not looking outside of the octagon. I'm looking up to the weight division above. I'm looking at the middleweight division. I'm putting my arm around my good mate, Israel Adesanya, and saying, listen, what are your plans? Because I want the belt you've got. Are you planning on going up to light heavyweight anytime soon? Because, again, listen, Ali Abdulaziz is right, man. It's about Kamaru Usman's legacy, not about Israel Adesanya's legacy. And okay, they've both made it quite clear they don't want to fight. But
look at you,
mate.
Look at you. You're going for another frenemies fight. You're going for another frenemies fight. You're trying to make another Colby. Look, it ain't happening. You know it ain't, son.
If Kamaru wants to make serious money and wants to define his own legacy, boom, that's the fight to me. That's the fight to make. Or at the very least,
you want him to fight his mate.
Yes, for my pleasure.
Got no beef with
and I'll pay for it.
Just for your pleasure. Right, okay. I guess you want him to do this in an octagon in Nigeria as well. Is that what you want, Sunshine? Yeah? With 100,000 people around it? Yeah, I thought you would.
Yes.
To be fair, it makes an awful lot of sense. But I don't think that move would happen until Israel Adesanya is in a situation to be moving his weight division. But they could help each other out. The legacy's there for Izzy to go up to light heavyweight Jack, isn't it? I know he's had one crack at it, but he didn't have a proper crack at it, with all due respect, putting on the size and what have you that you would need to become a fully fledged light heavyweight. And then that would leave a gap for Kamaru Usman to go up as well. They could help each other when it comes to defining legacies and becoming multi-weight world champions.
Yeah, look, if they're not gonna fight each other, I think it's inevitable that they've both got to move up. If let's just say hypothetically, if Usman beats Leon and then let's say he fights Chimaev as well and beats Chimaev, the division is not only white, but it's lapped. He's done Colby twice. He's done George twice. He's done Gilbert. And we're seeing, these rematches are not close. In my, the Colby one was close, but again, not close enough where you're going to scream robbery. And the same thing at middleweight. He beat Whittaker twice. He's beat Vettori twice. Romero's come and gone. Darren Till, that's a fight we want to see, but Darren's got to obviously string a couple of wins together before he's going to be in the talk for the title. So, like you said, he didn't have a real proper crack at light heavy last time. He tried to jump up as a middleweight. Didn't put on any size. So if they're not going to fight each other, obviously it'd be great to see them both move on and do bigger things. But again, who knows what the future holds? If you ask Colby and George, would they have fought each other 5 years ago? What would the answer have been there? So let's never say never.
Yeah. Well, if Nick Peet keeps going, mate, you know what I mean? He'll cause enough trouble for them to actually cause a fight. So you never know. Listen, recently, I'm sure loads of people have seen this on social media. Israel Adesanya has been in the UK. He's been doing a little bit of a worldwide media tour. And this is the sign of a proper champion, where he's taken full advantage of a situation where he can't get back into his own country following his last fight because of the COVID regulations and what have you. So he went on a little bit of a world tour. He came to the UK. We had a whale of a time. We looked back through some of his old fights and his tenure in the UFC so far. And that's where I want to take you here, Jack, because we kind of forget that this guy's only been in the UFC for 4 years. 4 years. And he's had 12 fights already in that 4-year period, 11 of which were at middleweight, all undefeated. Yes, he stepped up and just fell short at light heavyweight. I'm sure that will be on the horizon sometime soon. But that is the action of what we want to see. We all are UFC fighters, especially our champions. Activity, taking on the best of the best, whether it be in the contenders, whether it be challenging for titles, or whether it be now as a defending champion, putting it on the line regularly. Israel Adesanya is kind of the shining light to everybody else in the divisions.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It just shows what being active and what being ready to go at any moment can do for you. He's gone from being a debutant to this pretty much global star in 4 years. Selling pay-per-views, driving around in Ferraris, doing a world press tour. 4 years ago, he was just a kickboxer who had converted to MMA. So in terms of activity, there's no one quite like him. And you're seeing his coach say he wants to fight 5 times and he can pull that off, another 4 fights before the end of the calendar year. That's the type of thing the stats again you talked about as, pound for pound one or one of the greatest or the greatest middleweight ever. All right, he's got big shoes to fill in terms of following Anderson Silva as the middleweight GOAT, but he's definitely going the right way about it. He can only beat the guys in front of him, and to be having the output and the activity that he is having, and whenever he fights, Twitter and Instagram, it all becomes about Stylebender. He is on the verge now of becoming this star where sort of everyone stops that week to get ready to watch him fight and to watch the build-up. So if he bangs out 5 fights this year, then, this time next year, who knows what we could be talking about? Could he go back to kickboxing, boxing, or is he going to go up to light heavyweight? He's even talked about fighting for the heavyweight title at some stage. So who knows? He's only young as well. It's like you say, he's the gold standard in terms of a champion and what you want to see from him. You want to see him regularly and you want to see him outclassing their opponents. And that's exactly what he's doing.
And with that step up, Nick, that he did have to light heavyweight, it wasn't like he lost every minute of every round against Jan Blachowicz. He did have success, but then Jan's experience, Jan's technique, Jan's size kind of took over in the second half of the fight. So there'll be confidence that he could take from that defeat. And now, listen, I want to see the Cannonier fight. I want to see the Till fight. Of course I do. But I also want to see Israel Adesanya have a proper run at light heavyweight at some point.
Yeah, I'd like to see him, and I'm his biggest fan, but I think I'd like to see him take 6 or 9 months off and build his body up. You know, he's got the frame for it. He's absolutely got the frame. So that was the difference against Yan. You know, Yan's a heavyweight who boils down to light heavyweight. And Izzy was you know, as an accomplished middleweight, basically fighting as a middleweight as well. So, of course, in the striking department, he matched him or overmatched him, but it was just the grappling. It was just, Yan was just too heavy. Once he got on top of Izzy, he was just physically too big a man to get off. And that's where he dominated the fight. But I will never, ever put that as a black mark against Israel Adesanya's career. You know, he dared to be great. He dared to take a huge leap up in weight. You know, this is not a Henry Cejudo putting on an extra 10 pounds to skip through the weight divisions. And I'm not down what Henry achieved down in you know, down at bantamweight and flyweight, of course. But the size difference between a middleweight and a light heavyweight is absolutely mental. So I think to do something like that, very similar to John Jones. I think John Jones has been out a little bit too long, don't get me wrong. But you've got to take time away to physically allow your body to grow out, because you don't want to just stack muscle on, because you lose your speed, then you lose your reaction time, which is what makes Israel Adesanya such a creative and exciting fighter. So it has to be done technically. It has to be done right. Inevitably, he will go again. And I think one day he will actually be light heavyweight champion. It's full of studs at the moment, don't get me wrong. It's the hot potato division. Since Jones went, you know, that belt has been passed around so many times, and I think it will continue to do so. But there is a real opportunity for him to move up there, but it's going to take time. He can't jump up and down and jump around like the lighter weight guys can or the Gales can. You can't do that in the heavier men's divisions. I think he's got to commit to it and go, right, that's me done at middleweight. I'll see you in 9 months when I'm up at light heavyweight. Whoever's got the belt, be ready, because that's when you'll see the very best at Stylebender at 205.
Next time the 205 belt is on the line, will be between Glover Teixeira, Yuri Prochazka, which is a blooming hell of a fight as well. And I'm led to believe that Shenko versus Taylor Santos will be on that card as well. Nice little summertime vibes. Might be out somewhere in Asia. We'll keep you posted on location.
Oh, yes, Singapore.
Card.
Yeah. Oh,
why have you done that? Why have you done that? Why have you gone straight in there? You know what I mean? I'm trying to keep secrets on this show. You can't hold anything on here, can you?
No, I seen that rumor as well. I was thinking, oh, yes, Singapore. I'd love to go back to Singapore. So, yeah, lock that in, please.
There's the date, June 11th, right? Nobody said, listen, you've only seen, right, Singapore via our internal contacts, you wally, right? I've not seen that actually externally anywhere. You need to process what you see on social media and what you see on confidential emails, Nicholas, all right? Otherwise, you're going to get us all in bother. Look at him. He's just pressing for a summer holiday, Jack. That's what he's after. He's after a little trip to Singapore. But what a card that would be. Shevchenko and Santos, Yuri and Glover on that card as well. Should be an absolute cracker. June the 11th is the proposed date for that. Obviously, and then later on, it'll be International Fight Week. Just in case you are just joining us, this is the UFC 272 official Wayne show here on BT Sport. We're still waiting for Jorge Masvidal. Not seen him, and we've not seen Greg Hardy. They're the only two off the main card. Jalin Turner off the prelims as well, who's taking on Jamie Mullarkey. We're waiting for him. Everybody's come through on the rest of the prelims and the rest of the early prelims as well. So just 3 fighters we are waiting for as we've just completed an hour of the official Wayne show. 1 hour to go. Alan is asking the questions here, Jack. This one's for you, my man. Who is Jack's dream opponent?
It chops and changes, to be honest. For years, I said Frankie Edgar, but the more I think about Frankie, you know, I grew up, you know, in awe of the guy. He was one of my favorite fighters, and I don't even know if I'd like to fight him, to be honest, because I think it'd be one of the, you know, I've said this, and I probably am going to end up having to fight him, but it'd be one of those where you know, you just got so much respect for a guy, and you know, I'm not going to go in there and be kind or anything like that, so it'd be a tough one. But lately, the more I think about it is someone. Would be TJ Dillashaw at the minute. I mean, like a guy who's at the top of the tree still, was at the top of the tree probably 5-6 years ago when I was just turning over as a pro and wasn't even in the bantamweight division. So when I look towards the top, I see that he's going to be a guy who whether he wins the belt again or not, he's not going anywhere anytime soon. He's always going to be floating about amongst those top guys. And he's just got a massive name for himself. So someone I'd love to get in there with in the near future, or maybe in a couple of years' time, whatever. We'll see how things plays out. But definitely love to see me and TJ get into some scrambles and get into some exchanges. That'd be nice.
Mate,
as
UFC London 2023. Come on, Nick. UFC London headliner 2023. That's your one, isn't it?
As in the final eliminator, yeah, absolutely. As Jack's representative here in calling fights for him, formerly as the UFC commissioner, and mate, I say that once we get our arm raised on March the 19th, we're coming for Dominic Cruz. We want the Dominic Cruz win. We want that scalp on our record end of this year. Then in 2023, we'll take on TJ, and then we can't be denied then. Title opportunity time. So that's where we're going. Just to let everybody know, we want Cruz, we want Dillashaw, we want the belt.
The commissioner's spoken. And we want it in Wales as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah,
absolutely.
That's it.
UFC Wales. Let's go.
You do know this is UFC, Nick, yeah? Not WWE. You've gone full Paul Bearer on everybody, mate. That's what you've gone, haven't you?
No, I like it. Let's run with it. Let's keep it going.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There you go. So there you go. That's the route now. Dominic Cruz is after March 19th. That's what he's telling you now to call out. When the microphone's in your face, you know what to do now on March 19th, pal.
And I won't be saying nothing. I'll just be like that, calling him in, call Nick in. You're like Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman. I won't need to speak. I'll just move him in front of the mic.
Yes.
We've been speaking quite a lot about British talent. I'd love to get your opinion on this, Jack. This has come from Scotty. How far can Arnold Allen go? Obviously, he's got a hell of a fight on his hands at UFC London, taking on the Hangman himself, Dan Hooker, who's coming down back to 145. How far can Arnold go?
I think he can go all the way. As far as he wants to go. There's no reason why he can't fight for the belt and why he can't win the belt. I looked at Arnold's skill set, his boxing, his wrestling, his grappling. Compare that to guys like your Volkanovskis and your Ortegas and your Holloways, and I don't think you would look out of place or outclassed by any of those guys. And again, he's still a young guy. He's got enough. Like, how old's Arnold? Maybe 27, 28. I think he's near enough my age. Yeah. So he's potentially got another 6, 7, 8 years if he wants to in the sport, and he's only going to get better with time. And 100%. I genuinely believe by the end of this year, he will be someone that everybody, not just us in the UK, but everybody worldwide is talking about as a threat to the title and a threat to whoever holds it.
We went to go and watch him recently, didn't we, Nick? Training. He's spending some time at Renegade, obviously, in and around Leon Edwards and the guys there. And we went to go and spend some time with him training. He gets quicker and quicker and quicker as the session gets harder. This guy's engine is absolutely ridiculous. And when you actually stand next to him, you kind of take for granted just how thick he is. Not as in intelligence, I'm talking about structure. His back, everything about him, he's just gigantic. He's made, Nick, for this sport. Just physiologically, he's made for MMA.
Yeah, he is. And again, we were talking earlier about fighters being committed and that single-minded approach that Chimaev has. Arnold Allen's exactly the same. All he ever talks about is fighting. All he does is fight. He drives up and down from Ipswich to Birmingham at the moment, putting the miles in 3 times a week to get on those mats at Renegade. Then he's got his own team down in Norfolk as well. Obviously, his dad's a former strongman, so he's got those genetics involved. And people seem to forget, it's obviously Jack's got an undefeated record, which speaks for itself. But, we bang the drum all the time. Leon Edwards deserves a title shot. He's 10 fights unbeaten. He's on a 10-fight winning run. So is Arnold Allen. Arnold Allen deserves his opportunity as well. He's got a hell of a body of work put together. So I think this is the one. This is the breakthrough. Dan Hooker's a massively popular fighter. I think Dan Hooker coming down is probably thinking, I beat a guy like Arnold Allen. I think he's ranked number 7 in the world. That makes me a contender in the featherweight division. It all makes sense. What doesn't make sense is that he's going to come down, he's going to get in that octagon in London, and he's going to realize that Arnold Allen is stronger than most lightweights. Never mind featherweights. He's stronger than most lightweights. He's absolutely built for this game. So, listen, it's going to be a tough fight. It's a big step up for him. But I think after this fight, this is when Arnold's got to start going, right, I've took on Hooker, I've took on your guy. Now it's time for me to look at the Korean Zombies and the Yair Rodriguez and the Ortegas of this world, because he deserves it. His opportunity has to come.
Jack, just whilst we're talking about British fighters and British MMA and what we've got coming up, and we're all excited about what's been coming up, but I just wanted you to talk about the last couple of years and how, I suppose, difficult it's been to obviously maintain a career in mixed martial arts, because we keep forgetting gyms got shut down. Guys and girls couldn't train. Then you've got travel bans, so you can't get to certain locations. And this is the first time in 3 years that we've had one on British soil. How difficult has it been over the last 2 years just to mentally keep in line with your own hopes, dreams and ambitions in the sport, and two, just being able to keep going financially as well?
It's been nothing but a roller coaster. I mean, I can remember when the first lockdown came, and you know, we didn't really understand what COVID was or what a lockdown meant. And within like 2 weeks, people were talking as if the world was going to end. You know, I was thinking to myself, and me and my old man was speaking, you know, I may not fight for 18 months. Yeah, we could not see anyone travel or not anyone be allowed to leave. You know, it's all great for the UFC guys in Vegas when you're fighting out the Apex, but for people like us, you know, the embassy wasn't open. We couldn't get a visa. And then the gyms are shut. So, you know, everyone is in this mode of, oh, we're in lockdown and we can't leave the house. And you've got people like myself, or I'm thinking, right, I may not be fighting, but then I'm seeing that there's a card next week and the week after. So if something crops up and I can fight, I need to start doing some sort of training. You know, whether it's going for a run, going on the bike, or you know, let's be real, we was all sneaky training in the lockdown. We can say it now, it was gone. But, you know, we had to find a way to keep it moving. And to come full circle now, I just hope that this truly is the end of it and that we don't go back. I mean, speaking from, you know, my old man obviously runs a gym as well. So financially, you know, the gym didn't make no money for almost 2 years. You know, I was lucky to be able to fight, but it could have been a hell of a lot worse. You know, we spent a lot of money on the facility and stuff like that. And then it was just, there was no handouts. There was no sort of bargaining with them. They was like, look, you can't open. Simple as, you're not allowed to open to the public. Thankfully, you know, we got loyal members who continue to contribute. But it's been a mental 2 years. Like it almost feels to me, I still can't believe it's 2022. Like when I talk about 2020, it feels as if it was a couple of months ago, not 2 years. You know, it only feels like yesterday I was training to fight in London the first time round, and just after my debut. So it's as if we've lost 2 years. Although we haven't, I know, although I've been fortunate to fight, essentially, it feels like those 2 years have just come and gone in the blink of an eye. And I hope that this is the end of it, and that, you know, we can start to enjoy and plan our year a little bit more in terms of fights and dates now, without having to constantly have that worry in the back of the head of, are we going to be locked down, you know? Are we going to have opponents dropping out and fights getting cancelled and visas not getting sorted because of all the madness that's been going on? You know, hopefully this is the end of it.
How weird is it going to be walking out in front of fans again? Because that's not happened for a good couple of years.
Yeah, like I can't wait. I've always, when I came up in Cage Wars, I was always known as the guy with the mental following. Like wherever I fought obviously in Wales a lot, but I fought in London, I had an insane reaction. I fought in Belgium, I took like 200 to Belgium. When I fought in Copenhagen, I think there was 500 odd Welsh people with tickets. I was always known as that guy, and then to have like 3 of your fights, so you're in the biggest organization in the world, you're known for this following, and then 3 of your fights there's no crowd. It almost takes away part of your identity, and I can't wait for the UFC to actually see the reaction I have, the amount of people that's going to be there watching me on the 19th, and to actually see what they're working with, you know. Because I'm not just saying it for bravado. I could sell out half of the O2 on my own. You know, chuck me a strong undercard, I generally could do it. And if you chuck me in a 10,000 seater in Wales, I could sell that out in a couple of hours. So I can't wait to just show them that, look, this is the following I got. This is what the Welsh are like. Think of Conor McGregor in Dublin. You know, it's going to be electric. Mm-hmm. That's what it is for us in London and with the Welsh guys. This is as close to an home fight as my lot are going to have for a couple of years. So they're going to make the most of it. And I can't wait to feel the atmosphere on the walkout and on the intros and even in the fight. It's just something I've missed, and I can't wait to feel it again.
Yeah, I know, mate. They've all been messaging us to see where we're drinking throughout the course of the week in the build-up. You know what I mean? Everybody's ready for the stag do. So I know that you can't join us until after the fight, but they're all getting giddy. They're all getting giddy, man. For people that are just joining us, we're not just talking about stag do's and UFC London. We're obviously here for the UFC 272 weigh-in. Everybody's weighed in bar 3. Jorge Masvidal is one of those people that hasn't weighed in. I'm not worried about Greg Hardy too much, even though this week he did say that he's walking around at 310 pounds.
Yeah,
and he's going to get
worrying.
down to 265. Yeah, just a touch. And then, of course, on the prelims, we're still waiting for Jalen Turner. But, boys, if I can just point towards the main event, Nick, I'll come to you on Jorge Masvidal, because we saw him fly halfway across the world, and we saw that there was a little bit of a worry when he came in last minute to take on Kamaru Usman the first time. But he's been exemplary. I know that he's obviously competed at 155 previously. This is obviously a non-championship weight at welterweight. But we're what? An hour and 15 in? It's not like him. He's normally quite early. My experience of him anyway is quite early in these weigh-ins. Are you starting to get a little bit twitchy?
I don't know about twitchy. The fight's happening, regardless of whether he comes in at 171 or even above. The fight is definitely happening. There's no way it's not happening. Whether it's just his tactics because he wants to stay away from Colby and his whole hoo-ha, he wants to make sure he's well out the way. I don't know. I'm not concerned at this point. He's a veteran. He's been around this game an awful long time. I think this is Masvidal's 51st professional MMA fight. He's an old hand at it. He is a former lightweight as well, so it's not like he's struggling to make 171 pounds. But this is just a very important time at the moment. As you say, we've all been impressed by Colby Covington this week, how psychologically strong he is. He always talks a good game anyway, but he seems different from Usman. Jack was right. He seems different. The second Usman fight, there was that tinge of, kind of where's his identity going now? But he's absolutely right back on his horse. He's back banging the drum saying, I'm the best fighter in the world. I'm the greatest welterweight on the planet, all that kind of stuff. And, whether you laugh at him or not, he's programming his own brain. He's reminded himself, I'm better than this guy. And he keeps insisting, we've sparred thousands of rounds and I've never lost one of them. And all this kind of stuff is just kind of putting Colby in a place where you think, he knows something we don't. It's kind of like he knows the script. And I think leaving the door open like this with Jorge not turning up the way until later on is kind of feeding into those emotions where I'm like, this is all about Colby. You start thinking about where Jorge is. 2019, as Jack just pointed out, it may only feel like yesterday, but it was actually, 3 years ago when he had that incredible run in 2019. Since then, he's had 2 fights and lost them both. And then he got knocked out cold. And when you look at his record, he's actually on a 3-4 run. Those 3 wins, he's had 2 losses either side of them. So it's just impossible to know where Masvidal is. Of course, there's a lot on the line, so you'd expect nothing but the very best. But he's 37 years of age now. It's his 51st fight, and he's going over a guy that we know for sure has got a gas tank that can beat anybody if he's allowed to do what he does. So the cards for me, it just kind of all seems to be leaning in Colby's favour.
Well, we're still waiting for him. We haven't had Jorge Masvidal come through yet, just in case you are just joining us. If you finish your working day on this Friday afternoon, UK time. Colby Covington's been through. He's weighed in. And he is, as has the majority of the main card, bar Greg Hardy, who I've just been informed by our producers, just reminded me that in October 2020, he actually, and therefore had an extra hour in order to make the heavyweight limit. And like I said, he was talking about weighing in at around about 300 pounds at the start of this week. He's got to get down to 265 in order to make that heavyweight limit. It's a fully interactive show. Thank you very much for all the messages that you are sending in. We will do our best to get some questions answered by the brains amongst us. That is the one and only Mr. Jack Shaw. It says here, are people underestimating Colby's striking? He had more success on the feet versus Usman than Masvidal did.
All right, next fighter to the scale, competing in the featured prelim on ESPN in the lightweight division, Jalen the Tarantula Turner.
He looks very slow getting to those scales.
This is not good. Don't look like the look of that.
Shorts on as well.
Oh, he's made it.
156 pounds, the official weight for Jalen Turner.
No smiles. Oof, there's not much left on him, Jack. Jeez.
Strip that
he's
right
a big dude.
He's glad that red 156. He ain't got a lot left in him to cut, I don't think.
6'3", anybody that's 6'3" and making lightweight, geez Louise, that's an insane weight cut. Absolutely insane.
You once did that. Or was it welter? Did you make welter? What did you make at 6'4"?
I'm not 6'4". I'm only 6'2", but I did welterweight. Yeah, I did 168 pounds, but that was a lifetime ago. That was back in 2008. You know, I couldn't go anywhere near that kind of weight these days. I'd be like Greg Hardy these days. I'd need an extra hour to get heavyweight.
Right, let's bring up that question once again. It was about Colby striking and him having more success against Usman than Jorge Masvidal. Do you read into that, Jack? Is Colby striking underestimated in the UFC?
I think it's definitely underrated. Like if you make Colby and Masvidal have a pure striking match, there's only going to be one winner. But what makes Colby's striking so effective, is his wrestling, is the threat of the wrestle. Yes. Because he's fighting these strikers, and obviously in the back of their mind, they're paranoid about getting tucked down. Now, I train with some guys who, take Brett Johns, for example. You constantly go in the back of your mind that he's going to be looking for the takedown. That more often than not opens up opportunities to strike, and that's a lot of what Colby does. They're worried about him shooting, so then they're sort of cautious in throwing their shots, cautious in using their setups in case he goes underneath, which opens up opportunities for him to let his hands go. And also his pace and his cardio. He lands his best shots and his best combos later on in the fight when the guy is starting to when he's starting to be worn down from the wrestling, when his arms are heavy, when the head's not moving as much, when there's not as many things to worry about. And that's when he starts letting his combos go, especially like the first Usman fight. You've seen some of the combos. He was landing 5, 6, 7 punch combinations. And that's not necessarily because he's a better striker than Usman. It was just he did what he had to do to sort of tire him out. And cardio is king, especially with striking. The first thing to go when you're tired is your arms feel heavy, your legs feel heavy, you're not moving as much, you're not as energetic. And that's something Colby's never going to struggle with. He's never going to feel tired. We've seen that. All the 5-round fights he has, he keeps the pace. And I think that's why his striking doesn't get credit, because it's actually his wrestling that opens up those opportunities. I know that doesn't really make sense if you was to write it down that he's a good striker because he's a good wrestler, but that's what it is, and that's probably why he had more success against Usman, because Usman's not worried about Masvidal looking for a takedown, but he's worried that Colby might try and pinch one to steal the round. Hence why he's got to be a little bit more cautious on the feet. And hence why Colby had that little bit more success, probably in terms of stats against Usman in comparison to Masvidal.
I'm a bit worried for our jobs going forward here, Nick, because this fella, right, yeah, he can fight, and God bless him, he's going to be fighting for some time. But there's definitely a career in the media and analytics post all this. Listen, this is the beautiful thing of it, because there's people that tune into our stuff that are absolutely hardcore MMA fans, and they would have probably known what you've just said, they're hardcore MMA fans. But the biggest fan base that we're trying to attract are those that are into the boxing or into the football or into whatever, and we want them to come here and we want them to love it just as much as we love it. And speaking in layman's terms, like you've just done there, Jack, helps us awful to attract those fans. Obviously, we can't articulate it like you've just done. Fantastic stuff. Regarding what Jack was just saying there, Nick, I hope, just as a fan now, I hope that Colby just decides to have a kickboxing.
Wow,
because that then just
what
for
a
me,
tremendous honor. I'm not much of a judge.
I can hear John Anik in my headphones here. He's chatting. He's still got his microphone going on. We need to cut his microphone. But I just hope that he stands and bangs, and we then get something like very similar to what we witnessed face to face with Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington 1. That was an absolute classic.
Yeah, unfortunately, on that occasion, it was two very high level wrestlers coming together and going, right, well, I'm not going to wrestle you. You're not going to wrestle me. Let's have a kickboxing match. And that's what made it so exciting. It wasn't necessarily the most high level kickboxing, but it was fun because they both basically decided to throw down for our pleasure, which made it amazing. Obviously, Kamaru showed that he'd made big improvements for the second fight and was nowhere near as close, even though he didn't get the finish. But it's, in terms of this fight with Masvidal, listen, of course, we want Colby to throw down. Of course, we want Colby to make a statement. And I think Colby wants to make a statement as well. I don't think Colby will be happy to hold him down, grind him down on the ground and kind of push his way to a 5-round points decision. He wants a knockout. He wants to knock Jorge Masvidal out, because he knows then there's no more questions. There's no more back and forth. It's done. The rivalry is over. He will have proved decisively that he is a better fighter than Jorge Masvidal. And that's what makes it so intriguing for me, because that's what plays into Masvidal's hands a little bit, because to do that, he's got to strike with him. To do that at some stage, he's going to have to stand and bang with Jorge Masvidal, and that opens up Masvidal's bag of tricks on the feet. Now, that's not to say that Masvidal sensational takedown defense, that Masvidal isn't more than competent on the ground, because he is. But I just think Colby, being Colby, yes, he might grind them for the first couple of rounds, but I think he'll want to make a statement. He won't be happy with a one-sided points decision. He won't be happy with, pounding away on the ground, basically just until the end of the round, until the referee drags them off. He might come out of Usmanad where it's done. There's no more conversation about who's the better fighter. Colby wants that. And in looking for that, that's when Masvidal can find openings. That's what makes it exciting for me.
See, you've just seen it there, Jack. He's the hype man. He's hyped everybody up now. Everybody's absolutely pumped for this. Listen, I'm going to ask you a question here, because we kind of did this in our preview show with Bisping. We always pick certain fights out that we're attracted to, the ones that we're tipping off the prelims to do extremely well. You're not allowed to pick the main event, because everybody's here for the main event. We're here for the bad blood. We're here for the grudge. All right? We're here for Covington versus Masvidal. As you look down the card now, mate, is there a particular fight that jumps off there for you where you think to yourself, yeah, there's going to be a bonus there? Something is going to happen in there where we're going to get something special. What are you attracted to?
Kevin Holland and Cowboy, because that's like we mentioned when he got on the scale. Cowboy's a madman. Kevin Holland is somewhat of a madman as well. I've been watching him, smash in a load of trolls the last couple of weeks. But it's his first fight back at welterweight since I think it's his first one in the UFC at welterweight. So he looked healthy on the scales. He didn't look like he had a torturous weight cut. He looked like he made it quite comfortably. So I think he'll help neutralize the sort of, all right, Kevin Holland's never going to be a Division 1 wrestler, but no doubt he's got a wrestling base, and it takes away that size advantage a little bit that the middleweights are having. Like I've seen Kevin in person, and he's tall, but he's not as big as some of the middleweight, like your Brunsons and like your Vittoris, who, if they do get on top, it's almost like the Anya back of it situation again. Are they necessarily that much better skill-wise? Maybe not, but that size does factor in. So I'll be interested to see how Holland does down at the lighter weight, and will it play an advantage to him in terms of being able to keep the fight on the feet? I know Cowboy's not gonna, come and try and wrestle him for 3 rounds, but it'll give us a good gauge, I think. And I think he can be a real force at welterweight. It's a deep division, but with his range and his striking and his power, I think we've seen him spark guys at middle. So there's no doubt that he's going to be able to do it down there as well. So it's definitely one to keep an eye on. For me, is Cowboy and Kevin Holland.
It's a good fight to pick, isn't it, Nick? Because as you look at it, 2020 was the year of Kevin Holland. Last year was very, very different. Obviously, Brunson, Vittori, and Daukaus didn't go his way. You've got Oliveira. He hasn't won either in his last 3. I'm just looking at his record now, 2-6. It's his 21st, calculating there, 21st fight in the UFC, man. And they're both, as Jack just said, they're both just crazy. It has to live up to all our expectations, doesn't it?
Yeah, listen. Of course, with Kevin Holland, he's never been in a bad fight. Even when he's lost, he always brings some kind of entertainment. Whether he's talking to the visiting corner team and asking them for wrestling advice or whatever it may be. So you're always going to look out for him. And as you say, Cowboy Oliveira, mad as a box of frogs. So he always turns up as well. I also like to look at Edson Barbossa versus Bryce Mitchell. Bryce Mitchell's got an undefeated record, but been nowhere near the level of Edson Barbossa. Edson is a legit guy in any weight division, but at featherweight, he's just absolutely. And unless you're one of the top guys in this featherweight division, you're going to have a real issue with Edson Barbossa. So I think everyone gets on the end of the fact that Thug Nasty's this crazy, almost like trailer trash farm hands, shooting guns and all this kind of stuff. And there's a lot of eyeballs on him. But he better be ready for Edson Barbossa, because we've seen him lose before. He's undefeated, but he actually lost on Tough. We've seen him get subbed on Tough by Brad Katona. So it's not like he can't be beaten. It's not like there isn't holes in his game. Okay, he was subbed. That may not be Edson's strength, but one leg kick from Edson Barbossa would be enough to see me off. I'd be done. I'd walk straight out of that octagon. So I'll wait and see what happens when Bryce Mitchell takes one of those thigh kicks. Then, because if it was me, you shoot for the takedown as soon as possible. And if Edson times one of those knees, good night, Vienna.
Lads, we're in for a good night, man. This card is absolutely ridiculous. You've both just picked 2 of the main card there without, obviously, you weren't allowed to talk about the main event. But the one that attracts me, I look straight down at that because Marina Rodriguez, I think, has been brilliant over the last 2 years. I think she's been absolutely brilliant. Yan Xiaonan, I just think it'll be an absolute cracking fight. And for me, with the ramifications on it, with the being that number one contender in this division, obviously after Carla Esparza when she gets her shot at Rose Namajunas, I think we're in for something special. I think that will be the highlight of the prelims. Anyway, I'm getting carried away now, boys. We're still 36 hours away from everything getting stuck in. Jack, at the start of the year, we always pick who we think will be the champion in each weight division by the end of that calendar year. We've already made our picks, and we'll inform you who we thought in a minute. But Reza wants to know who you think will hold the UFC lightweight belt at the end of the year.
So I'll just have a really out there pick, because why not? And then we're making some irrational choices and some irrational statements anyway. So I'm gonna go the Mac. I just got a feeling. I got a funny feeling. I don't know what it is. Like, if I was speaking sort of with logic, I would probably say someone like Islam or maybe Charles. But I just got this feeling that he's going to come back, whether it be in the summer or whether it be in it. It's going to be a short notice. It's going to be he saves the day, and it's just going to be like the madman is back. So I'm going McGregor. Let's go for it.
I love it. Notorious.
Imagine. Just so you know, we went logical at the start of the year. I think I went Islam. Did you go Islam? Who did you go, Nick?
I went Islam, yeah. Uh-huh.
At the start of the year. But now, listen,
I'm all in.
Buying into the we're buying into Rocky Balboa stories, and Jack's got pumped up, man.
Yes.
It would be truly sensational, Nick, if he could, from where he is right now, to come back, steam on in, and reclaim the lightweight championship. Given the amount of killers that are obviously in that division, even if it's just a one-hitter quitter. Right, I'm not talking about going on a crazy reign, just a one-hitter quitter where he has his hand raised one more time and he's got UFC gold around him. It would be unbelievable.
It would be absolutely incredible. As you say, his only win in the last 5 or 6 years was against Cowboy, who, let's face it, lost the fight before he even walked out in the middle of the T-Mobile Arena. Every time he's faced anybody of note, Conor's come short in recent years. But it's Conor. And I talked about this prior to the rematch with Poirier. It's Conor McGregor. You can't write him off if he can flick the switch. If he can get back into that, 100%. So I
was happy to see
he's got the ability to do it.
Little of the notion that a donut is not a breakfast food is lost on me. It seemed like a lot of you guys leaned into the versatility. I can't make Dean Thomas the champion.
Does John know that he's here?
I've got no idea. He sounds like he's at the buffet.
Yeah, he does.
Is here though.
I think the audio's just been cut there for a split second, but what I'm seeing there...
French toast the proper respect that it deserves.
John is still... I don't even know what he's wearing.
He's at the buffet.
John is at the buffet. He's missed Jorge Masvidal.
Passionate about French toast.
Who looks like he's got a new tattoo on his shoulder.
New tattoo, yeah.
I'll tell you what, John Anik's going to get it in a minute. Someone's going to give him... Yeah, Jorge's been and done.
Yeah. You're at the buffet, John.
170.5 for Jorge Masvidal. So therefore, people tuning in here on BT Sport, he's weighed in at 170.5, exactly the same as Colby Covington a little earlier on. I think he'd look like he's just been round the pool, Jorge, there. He looked like he'd just stepped out of the sauna, didn't he? Absolute like an Adonis. Sporting a new tattoo on his shoulder. We're still waiting for Greg Hardy, by the way. He's the only fighter that we are waiting. But that is a poll that he's currently running on our social media regarding the men. Here he is. He's back. There you go. John's back on. He's going to be living, isn't he? He goes, you what? I've just been for the French toast. And what's happened? Look, he's shaking his head. He's absolutely fuming. He's John Anik there. They're all telling him, yeah, Jorge's been and gone, son. What?
He'd be more fuming about leaving his French toast at the buffet, guaranteed.
Absolutely. Jorge Masvidal, 31% compared to 69% there for Colby Covington, where the fans that are watching this, that's where they are swaying. Nick, sense. I think I've already asked you this on the previews. What are you thinking? Who's got this main event?
Yeah, I think on the preview show last week, which you recorded with Mike, obviously I was thinking then youth, energy, the fact that Colby, for me, does have the advantage on the ground, and inevitably at some stage you'd think this fight will hit the ground. I think he can tire Jorge out in the first few rounds and then maybe look to put his foot down in rounds 4 and 5. Of course, Jorge Masvidal has that ability to land a single shot, as we've seen many times. Again, back in 2019, he had 2 occasions, and we also seen him had War and Peace with Nate Diaz, where he came through it. But Nate Diaz's gas tank compared to Colby Covington's is just incomparable. You know, Colby just sets an unbelievable pace, a relentless pace. I think he'll happily take some boozes if he needs to in the first couple of rounds, while he maybe spoils the fight a little bit and keeps the fight close and up against the fence, dirty boxing, all that kind of stuff, dragging Masvidal down, let him get back up, drag him back down again, just sapping away at those energy reserves at the 37-year-old man. And then, as I say, maybe opening up in round 4 or 5. Obviously, my heart wants them both to fly at each other from the opening bell and just start swinging away. But I just think Colby's just a little bit too shrewd for that. So I'm going to stick with Colby Covington on points. But at some stage, it will catch fire. At some stage, these two are going to stand and bang, dig their toes into the canvas, bite down on the gum shields, and let their hands go. I just hope it's in round 1 and 2 and not rounds 4 and 5, because by then, Masvidal's going to be chasing the fight.
Talking logic, right? Come on, man. Jack set the precedent. Said irrational predictions on the show. We've just gone for Conor McGregor to be lightweight champion by the end of the year, bro. Come on. What are you playing at?
Flying knee part 2. Flying knee part 2. I'm going all in.
That's it. He's going to beat his previous record. Flying knee. Bosh. Out. That's what we want, innit, Jack? What are you thinking, mate?
Yeah, I mean, Masvidal flying knee 2 seconds of the first round. No, if we're being serious, I think, like Nick said, it will catch fire, but I don't think that Colby is going to be as emotionally invested as Masvidal. I think the only time he digs his feet in and stands and bang will be on his terms after he's done the wearing down, after he's bagged those early rounds, after he knows Masvidal's, tired and that punch power pot may have dwindled a little bit. So I think Colby takes it, if not decision, maybe a finish late on the ground. I don't think he's got the punch power to put him away on the feet, but I think, maybe a TKO on the ground in terms of where Masvidal just got no energy left to carry on fighting that rest, or maybe a submission. But, like Nick said, I'd love for him to come out in the first round and just start letting him go fast. But I don't think Colby's that type of guy. I think he knows, having come off that loss to Usman, I don't think he's looking at his way out, Colby. I think he still wants to sort of make a run for that title and get some of these big money fights. And, Masvidal's been there. He's fought for the belt. He's this pay-per-view star now. He's made his money against some people like Nate Diaz and Usman. And I think he knows, potentially his fighting career may be coming to an end. I'm not saying there's not big money fights there, but I think he knows that if he doesn't get a win here, then the chances of that title may be gone. So I think Colby is going to take it, if not late on, by decision.
How much out on not having these two on Tough this year, Nick? Come on, man. It'd have been must-see TV, yeah?
I know. That's, I don't want to cast any shade on the 2 female coaches that they've got lined up for the next series of Tough or anything else, but, these 2 on Tough for a season would have been absolutely unmissable TV. Kind of like my other suggestion, which was Darren Till and Luke Rockhold. For me, that's your tough coaches. Your two tough. I'm just getting a gig for Darren Till now as well. Your 2 tough coaches have got to be Marmite with fans. You either love them or you hate them. It's got to be unmissable TV. Really can be all in on Tough, and I just think since Tough's come back, they just kind of missed the mark a little bit with the coaches. I think Masvidal versus Colby would have been absolutely mental. Now that's not to say they couldn't do a Masvidal Conor. I funny what Jack was saying there about being a title contender, not being a title contender. I think Masvidal's accepted now. Boom, the title's not coming, but he has still got that BMF belt, and there is still huge pay-per-view fights with the Diaz brothers, with potentially a Conor McGregor who's here to make money but not win titles. There's this kind of legend, kind of icon, fan favorite tier of fights that is still very much out there for Jorge Masvidal moving forward. Whereas there's no way Colby's thinking like that. Colby is thinking about one thing, becoming UFC champion. And that mindset is just, I think we can all pick up on it, that they're kind of in different places in their career. So yeah, that's a great point by Jack. But yeah, I think there's plenty more for Masvidal, but I think his BMF belt needs to get dusted off.
Can't wait, boys. Absolutely captivating. Listen, it all goes down in the early hours of Sunday morning on BT Sport. Make sure you come in to join us. The prelims get going from 1 a.m. with the main card from 3 a.m. Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal have weighed in. Everything's on the money and the job is done. Everybody has weighed in by one heavyweight who in the past has actually missed. I know what you're thinking. How can you miss 260 when you're a professional athlete? Listen, this dude knocks about at 300 pounds, so he's got a little bit of cutting to do. Either that or he's trolling us all and enjoying himself at the buffet. A couple more questions coming in before we finish the show. We've got about 20 minutes on the clock. When Hardy comes in, job done. That's what we're waiting for right now. Phil says, how does the core main event go down? Do you know something? I think this is no disrespect to Renato Moicano. I think he's a fantastic fighter. But there is a little bit, not a sourness, because I think the fight will be solid. Because I knew what we could have had in Dos Anjos versus Fiziev, that really had me, man. I was absolutely pumped. Fiziev's been brilliant recently. Dos Anjos, the question of inactivity was there. Could Fiziev raise to that level? And I thought we were going to get an absolute cracker. So I'm gutted that we're not getting that. Fair play to Renato Moicano for stepping in. But I just think step too far. This is a guy coming up in weight to this division, whereas you've got Rafael Dos Anjos, who is technically coming down in weight to this division. I think Dos Anjos is better than him in all different aspects of martial arts, and he's bigger. I don't know how you feel, Jack. Moicano's brilliant, but I just don't think I just think it's a step too far for Dos Anjos on 4 days' notice.
Yeah, I think, you do often see like these passing of the torch fights where you see the former champion takes on the young up-and-comer and loses, and it's almost their route then to the bigger fights. But I just don't think that this is one of those. I think when you like you said, 4 days notice, Moicano was a featherweight. Dos Anjos, I know he was the lightweight champ, but he has fought at welterweight against these bigger, stronger guys. He's had a full camp. I just see how it goes any other way. I think he's, like you said, bigger, stronger. I don't think he's going to struggle with him on the floor. Moicano's got a great ground game, but I don't see that RDA is going to be putting himself in any vulnerable positions where he could get caught. And I think on the feet, it only goes one way. So, yeah, for me, it's RDA all day.
Are you rich on the same hymn sheet, Nick?
Yeah, a little bit. Listen, again, I like Moicano. I think he's a strong fighter. He's got a good record. He's on a 2-fight winning run. He looked sensational against Jai Herbert, and
yeah, he did.
I think he's had another win since then, both rear naked chokes. That's his strength, though. And
Alex
Hernandez,
that was a great win as well, wasn't it?
Sensational win against a strong jiu-jitsu guy again. But RDA is a different level again. And when you're adding in the fact that RDA is a sensational jits guy, and he's naturally a much bigger guy, and he's got so much more experience. Listen, RDA, it hasn't all been plain sailing for him, since his title run in 2015. His record reads 5-6, and yeah, last time he fought, okay, he beat Felder, but it was a split decision. It was back in 2020. That's a long time to be outside the octagon, whereas Moicano fought this year and had a big win this year. So, his tail's up, and he's obviously took this opportunity because he realizes that to light the blue touch paper on his own career, he's 32 years of age, Moicano. He needs a scalp like this. His record's solid, but all the names he's lost to, Ortega, Aldo, Korean Zombie, Fiziev, they're all losses. He keeps falling at the final hurdle to break into the ranking system. This gives him an opportunity. And don't forget, Bisping's greatest moment, Michael tell you, he took it at 10 days, 13 days notice or whatever and changed his life by becoming UFC middleweight champion. Moicano will think the same thing. Listen, if it's on the ground, I'm more than capable. If it's on the feet, I've got absolutely nothing to lose. I've got everything to gain. And all it's going to do is carry favour with the year that I've jumped in at late notice anyway. I tell you what, Islam Makhachev would have egg on his face if Moicano can pull off something sensational. At some stage in every career, a fighter gets old. And maybe Moicano's perfectly placed to take full advantage of RDA.
See, he's back now. He's back. See, I knew there'd be some romance that he'd sprinkle on the show before we finish off. Good lad, that's what it's all about. Yeah, you are with us for the official UFC 272 weigh-in show. Obviously, these fights going down in Las Vegas. We're just waiting for Greg Hardy. Why do heavyweights do this to us? Come on, lads. You know what I mean? We've got bantamweight kings on the blooming show here. He's thinking to himself, lads, you're taking the mick out of me. I've got to make weight in a couple of weeks. And these big
Come
lads
on, boys. Hey, listen. Usually, I think you're right, but I think Greg might be struggling, to be honest. I got a funny feeling that Greg may actually be struggling.
Mate, I wouldn't mind. He's got 120 pounds on you, Sunshine. You know what I mean? I think he could. I think he could find it. Jeez.
I reckon I'd still catch him in a sub.
Yeah, I reckon you would, mate. I reckon you would. Absolutely.
That's basically the equivalent of you fighting him with Rose Namajunas on your shoulders.
Yeah. Oh, I like our odds.
That would be the match.
I'll be honest with you. I like our odds. Rose can take over on her feet. Let me do the grappling. I like our chances.
Easy way, easy money.
Jack, once you have weighed in, do you have any like rituals, go-to rituals during, obviously, from the point of weighing in, everything's sweet as not. I know you've got a ceremonial that you'll have to obviously adhere to when you get to London, which again is going to be weird for you because that's not been a thing of the fans come out and what have you. And then obviously into fight night. Have you got anything, processes that you go through?
In terms of food or just in general?
Everything, mate. Is there obviously camp's tough, making weight's tough. Is there a dream meal that you go, right, that's my rehydration meal? Is there, right, okay, we do these processes. Go on then, so give it me, lad. Come on, sell the dream to me.
Every single, since I've been pro, the night before every single fight, it's spaghetti bolognese. It's not even up for debate. I don't care where in the world we are. That's what it's got to be that. I don't care if I got to bring it from a week ago back from Wales and let it go stale. That is what I got to have every single night before a fight. It's just, like you said, especially the last couple of days, that's all you can think about. That's all you can taste. That's all you can smell. Get back, refill with what the UFC has give us. Go to bed for a nap. Wake up, back in the land of the living. Tell the old man to get the stove on and get it done.
All right, so it's not like you're out and about. It's a homemade. So your dad will be
if
doing
we can,
yeah.
If we can, obviously, Fight Island was a little bit different because we were stuck in the room, so we had to get it made for us. But in Vegas, you get like the little you get a little suite, so you got your own little kitchen and stuff like that. So my old man turns into he thinks he turns into Gordon Ramsay for the week, but
there you go.
He's very modest, like as you can tell. So so it's like if he can do an homemade one, then it's homemade every time. There
you go. Friday night we're sorted, Nick. There you go. The shows have got a bit of spag ball knocking about. Sunshine.
Come on, come honest to God. He's like, he would 100% do it, Phil. He'd be like, more the merrier. Just come give the door knock. There'd be plenty going round. He thinks he's cooking for 1,000 anyway, I think.
Keep your questions coming in. It's a fully interactive show. We've got about 15 minutes remaining. So if you've got anything for Jack, whilst we've got him, obviously he's been a fantastic stand-in for Bisping. If you've got any questions for him, contact via all our social media channels. Then what's the rituals like on fight day? Is it double sleeps, triple sleeps, no sleeps? How would you roll?
It's been different, because the last two, because although they were in Vegas, they run it on UK time. So the last two, we had to sort of put an alarm on to get up and fight because we had to fight early in the morning Vegas time. But to be honest, I'm very relaxed fight day. I don't feel a great deal of nerves. Like you see some guys, they switched on from the minute they open their eyes, whereas I just like to stay as calm as I can for as long as possible. I'm in and out of naps all day. I like watch a bit of Netflix. I don't like to get myself too worked up until I need to. I don't. There's a picture of me at my last fight, and I think it's 90 odd minutes before the fight, and I'm sleeping on the mats on I got a tie pad underneath my head because they woke us up early. Like I was like, I'm gonna have to go to sleep for that. And my mom was like, you're fighting in an hour, and I was like, I need 20 minutes, otherwise my system's gonna be shot. So I like to stay as calm as I can for as long as possible. I don't feel the need to. I'm not like one of these guys who needs to be agitated and get in a zone. Like I can flip the switch don't see the point in burning up nervous energy for the sake of it. I've been doing it all my life, so I'll stay as calm as possible for as long as possible.
For the third time in the UFC's heavyweight
division. Here's our best bet, lads. Here he is.
Here we go. The moment of truth.
Come on, son. Oh, he looks like he struggled.
Here he is. Look heavy though. He doesn't look necessarily heavy. Take the socks off. Making 265, taking the socks off.
That ain't good.
No, he has missed in the past, you know. He's just dense.
266. The official weight for Greg Hardy.
Look at him. You can have it, lad. Squeezed in.
All right, that is
if he shaved his head, he'd have been on weight an hour ago.
For the ceremonials.
Listen, we'll have loads of feedback from the ceremonials, because you just heard John Anik there saying that there will be some ceremonials from Las Vegas a little bit later on. But the main thing for us is that the action goes down on BT Sport. 1 a.m. for them prelims. Come and join us for that, for UFC 272, with the main card from 3 a.m. That main card is ridiculous. The cherry on top of the cake, as you can see, is Colby Covington versus Jorge Masvidal. But look at that. All gets underway with Sergei Spivak and Greg Hardy, who's just in weigh-in in the heavyweight division. Kevin Holland back down at welterweight, taking on Alex Oliveira. Edson Barbossa in a brilliant stylistic matchup with Bryce Mitchell. And then you've got Rafael Dos Anjos at that catchweight with Renato Moicano, who's really punching his ticket for a scalp in the co-main event. And then, as you can see, Colby versus Jorge, bad blood. I doubt it'll be settled, but it will be entertaining whilst it does last. So make sure you come and join us here on BT Sport. Have you enjoyed it, Jack? I know that obviously you're 2 weeks out from fighting, mate, but to do a little bit of a swerve and do a bit of presenting for us today, we've been all right, pal?
Obviously, of course you have, boys. I've really enjoyed it, and it's been a nice change, to be honest. I usually be in the gym now, getting choked out and ragged about. So it's been a very nice, quiet Friday night for a change, rather than getting beasted in the gym. So thanks for having me. And if Bisping ever big shots you again, just give me a call.
Yeah. Well, he might do for UFC London, mate. You know what I mean? He's got a big schedule. I know that you're fighting, but if you can jump off the scales and jump on the show, that'd be wonderful. If you could help us with that, and then we'll all go back to yours for a spag ball afterwards. All right, lad.
Yeah. So we will see you. We'll see you after the weigh-ins, 100%.
Amazing. Top stuff. Make sure you come back and join us, myself, Nick, and Mr. Bisping on Sunday, because we will be doing our review of UFC 272. That'll be available on the BT Sport YouTube channel. Loads of interviews gone up this week. One with Jorge, one with Colby. Bisping sat down with them over in Vegas, and Dan Hardy's done his big preview of that main event. Get stuck in. This is going to be epic. And once again, prelims from 1 a.m., main card from 3. Enjoy the fights.
Colby will get his jaw broke. I'll say when it happens.
Colby Covington is a scary man.
It starts violent, but it ends more violent.
A beautiful display of violence. I don't think the world's ready for this.